I know what that's from. And that TV show used to be offensive.
What, Bewitched? Why do you say that?
'Cause it showed a mixed marriage on TV. A witch woman and a normal man. Hey, what time is it? It's PodBlast Live time! Yeah!
That's right, it's PodBlast time. I'm your host, Chance Bartels, with you tonight.
We got a good one for you today!
As Steve Harvey would say on Family Feud. This is your show, your weird, informative, hopefully fun, time capsule of memories of days gone by as we forge ahead together in the game of life. Not the Milton Bradley board game life, but life, as in real life. But we're going to talk about some classic board games later on in this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast. This is the Nostalgia Show with a bite. Because it bites. No. Welcome. Like I said, I'm Chance Bartels, your host. No relation to Chance the Rapper. Really excited to get started. While we're live, now, it took me a while to get prepared. It's the middle of the night, so I don't expect anyone to call in or to be watching as we're live. If you're listening at FistFulOfRadio.com, Fistful of Radio, or Apple, or any podcast platform like TuneIn, obviously don't call in. But if you're live on Facebook Live or YouTube, number 770-438-1050, that's the show line to share your thoughts and comments. And open lines. So we're going to talk about some nostalgia. I'll go over the topics in just a moment. Oh, man. Got some really unusual nostalgia features and some regular ones, such as the fake rant of the week, the old-fashioned term or terminology that is pretty square today and outmolded. Got some music history, audio clips of music, as well as brief history of Mad Magazine. If you're watching live or on video after the fact, you'll notice I have some choice Mad Magazines in the background for my collection. But we're going to briefly talk about Mad Magazine because one of the great artists recently passed away that we'll talk about in just a moment. You'll hear from him in his own words in about a 5-minute clip from Beyond the Grave. It's an awesome clip of this gentleman. And then we're going to, as I said, talk about some favorite nostalgic board games. Going to talk in a moment about Bewitched because recently it was the star Elizabeth Montgomery who played Samantha Stevens on Bewitched birthday, her heavenly birthday. She's been gone since 1995. I pulled a few clips and music from the show primarily, but we've already done an entire show about Bewitched versus Genie way back in 2019 with my part-time co-hosts Al Hardy and Tom Williams. It was the Nostalgic PodBlast number 9, out there in YouTube land. Just if you want to Google the Nostalgic PodBlast 9 Bewitched. It was a good show with a lot of clips. I don't want to rehash all of that, but that was almost 4 years ago when we covered this topic. And we're also going to talk briefly. I know I've covered classic game shows a lot on the show, so I'm not going to rehash, but I do have some classic game show censorship that's recent on the Buzzer Network that really ticked me off. I'm going to mention with a little bit of game show history. I'm going to talk about just 4 shows briefly and play some of the theme songs, talking about the shows Body Language, Classic Concentration, Double Dare, and Card Sharks, and the connection between those shows. It's not going to take much time. Got all of that for you and a whole lot more, including the nostalgic dish, as in both a food and a sex symbol. I'll give you hints from the 1980s decade. And then also I have a quick, of course, comic book segment to help the collector save time and money. But let's start with this. The reason that I chose the Bewitched TV theme for opening music of this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast, I wanted to open the show with that because, as I said, way back on April 15th, it was the birthday of Elizabeth Montgomery, or is. It always will be her birthday. And by the way, April 15th, of course, used to be the tax deadline in the United States of America. No longer, it's April 18th, unless you file for an extension, and you can go beyond April 18th. Now, most people have already done their taxes in their rearview mirror for 2023, but I recently completed mine, paid my taxes. Oh, I'm so glad that's behind me, and I'm so grateful for the help from my awesome accountant and CPA. I'm glad that's over with, and I did my diligence. But let's talk about Elizabeth Montgomery. That version I played was from season 3, and you don't hear that anymore in reruns or on DVD. In the Sony DVDs, which Sony released the entire series, all 254 episodes of Bewitched, starting in 2005 through 2009. All 8 seasons, all 254 episodes. But someone at Sony at the time, who may or may not still be with that company out of Japan, I love Sony. That's all I buy are Sony products, Sony television, Sony electronics. They're the best. They're the best. Look, I try to buy American when I can, but they make the best stuff. They just do. And I like a lot of their properties in terms of entertainment, like Wheel of Fortune. I'm a wheel watcher from way back. And they had a recent WWE Wrestling Week that was awesome. It was the best new week of Wheel of Fortune in years because it was very inappropriate, very hilarious. These wrestlers had no filter, and I loved it. I loved it. They really pushed the envelope for a family show. I loved it. And we'll talk about it briefly and play a little promo. But that was way back in the end of March, the week of March 31st, 2023 when those aired. But they'll be running in reruns this summer. Really funny stuff. But getting to Elizabeth Montgomery, yeah, that season 3 version you don't hear anymore. And that's my favorite version of the theme. They would score a different version of the opening. At least they did for season 1, season 2, season 3. The Dick York years, basically. And then the season 3 version that you heard at the top of the show was used in the original airings of season 4 and season 5. And then when Dick York was replaced, they had to do a whole new opening with Dick Sargent, with new animation and new music and new narration. But I am going to play the standard version of the theme, which this is the thing that ticks me off. Someone at Sony, unbeknownst to them, has tacked on the season 1 version of the theme. I know this seems like a very minor detail, but details matter, especially to geek collectors like me and you. Who love the original versions. And in syndication for years on WGN Chicago and WTBS Superstation 17 that would air Bewitched and Genie back to back in the 80s and early 90s every morning, they aired that version of the theme. That's my favorite. The season, it was originally scored for the 1966 to 1967 season of Bewitched, and it was in the syndicated package. Well, starting, I guess, in the year 2000 or so, it got replaced, and for some reason they spliced on the season 1 version, and the season 1 version is a very low-key, slower version of the theme, and I'm going to play it in just a sec, but I just wanted to honor Elizabeth Montgomery. Happy heavenly birthday to you, ma'am. I know you're not hearing me, and not many others are either, but I do want to pay my respects to this legend. And as I said, she's been gone from this earth since 1995, over 28 years ago. She was just one of the TV greats of all time. And of course, she's best known for playing Good Witch Samantha Stevens on ABC television on Thursday nights for 8 television seasons. Liz Montgomery was born on Saturday, April 15th, 1933 in Los Angeles, California. She was the daughter of actor-director Robert Montgomery. And Elizabeth had a flourishing acting career of her own that spanned 5 decades, starting in the 1950s with a role on her father's television series titled Robert Montgomery Presents. And also, she starred on stage in Broadway in 1956 with her debut in the play titled Late Love. Other notable television roles for Elizabeth in her early years included a great episode of The Untouchables in 1960 in its explosive season 2 premiere episode titled The Rusty Heller Story, in which she was nominated for an Emmy Award. And in that episode, she plays she plays a sex pot that's toying with the mob. And of all actors, David White is in that in a different role. And David White, for those who don't know, went on to play Larry Tate in Bewitched for all 8 seasons. Darren's boss at McMahon and Tate advertising firm. But he's in that Rusty Heller Story episode of The Untouchables. It's really violent. They got away with a lot of violence in those early black and white episodes. I'm thinking maybe because it was in black and white, you didn't see the blood, the red, the color red. Maybe that's why they got away with it. But a lot of those shows were extremely violent, like Peter Gunn. People getting, like it showed a judge. I remember an episode of Peter Gunn getting shot in the face in court, dead right there, man. And sadly, that happened here in Atlanta, where I'm at, in a terrible case with this Nichols character who grabbed a bailiff's gun and shot the judge, dead right there, killed a bunch of people, including I don't want to get into it. It's not very nostalgic and it's not very pleasant. But anyway, I digress. But getting back to Elizabeth Montgomery, I love that episode of The Untouchables. She also was in a very notable Twilight Zone episode opposite Charles Bronson back in 1961 in the 3rd season Twilight Zone episode, the original Twilight Zone, of course, Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, titled Two, like two people, TWO, Two. That's the title. And it was kind of an Adam and Eve story. Last man and woman on Earth, but they're enemies. She's the implied Russian enemy, and Charles Bronson is the implied American hero. And what's going to happen to the human race? If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give it away, even though it's been around since 61. Classic episode. There's not much talking in it. She doesn't speak. Anyway, she's so pretty in that episode. And she was also in Rawhide with Clint Eastwood in 1963. Great episode of Rawhide. Look it up. It'll be on MeTV one of these days. Or one of the Western cable networks. So, in the summer of 1964, regular weekly series production began on Bewitched after it was picked up to be a weekly sitcom by ABC TV. And as I said, 254 half-hour episodes were ultimately filmed, which aired on ABC from Thursday, September 17th, 1964 at 9 p.m. That was the time slot. Until Saturday, July 1st, 1972 at 8 p.m. The network moved it, which is typical with a hit show, except for, thank God they didn't do that with Seinfeld in the 90s. They kept it on Thursday night. That was NBC's bread and butter night with Cheers. What a great lineup. And all those other shows. But the network with Bewitched moved it to Saturday night. That's what happened with the damn Ropers. I'm digressing here. The spinoff of Three's Company that gets trashed. People are just brainwashed into thinking it was just a crap show. It really wasn't. It was in the top. I think it was in the top. It was in the top 10 for sure initially because it aired on a Tuesday night, and then the network moved to Saturday night. Might have been Thursday night. I'm going by memory here. I want to say it was on Tuesday night, and then they definitely moved it to Saturday night, and that killed the ratings. Anyway, but so that happened with Bewitched, and then the show just tanked. And it was ultimately last new episode, July 1st, 1972, was the last time Bewitched aired on ABC in prime time. But they kept it on the daytime schedule. Some folks my age or older may remember that ABC Network aired Bewitched in the mornings, weekday mornings, along with game shows and things. And she was also a great game show player, particularly on Password. The original Password, when she was doing Bewitched in 1966, I think it was the first time she was on Password. She was a great, great player of that game. And she was on Password Plus and then the 70s version before that. Just a hell of a good player. Now, Elizabeth was nominated for several Emmy Awards for her performance of Samantha Stevens, the Friendly Witch, in case you didn't know. Now, did you know this? 3 actors actually portrayed Samantha's mortal husband, Darren Stevens, on Bewitched, which included, of course, both Dick York, both Dicks, as I say, no pun intended, both Dicks, Dick York in seasons 1 through 5, and then Dick Sargent, his replacement in seasons 6 through 8. But did you know, I talk about this former child actor, he's my favorite child actor of all time next to Stanley Livingston, Bill Mumy. Best known as Will Robinson in Lost in Space, but I mean, look at the guy's IMDb. He's done so many projects, television shows, movies, worked with Bridget Bardot. Man, I mean, what a career. Now he's a musician. He's always been a musician, but I have a lot of respect for this child actor. I hope to get him on the PodBlast one day. But Bill Mumy played Darren Stevens in a season 2 episode titled Junior Executive, in which troublemaker Endora, Samantha Stevens' mother, of course, the witch transformed Darren into a kid. So Darren's working at his draft table. He falls asleep, and then he gets zapped into the form of himself as, I think, a 11-year-old kid or 12-year-old kid. Now, the first 2 seasons of the magical comedy Bewitched were filmed in black and white. And booze, alcohol, was featured in almost every episode of the show. As ad agency executive Darren and his boss, Larry Tate, David White, wined and dined their advertising clients. And obviously Mad Men, I think, took a little page from Bewitched. I know it happened in real life, but, I think they were, that was their homage, I think, to Bewitched, all the boozing in the ad agencies that were going on at those times, in those days. Let's see. Eventually, the Stevens family had 2 children, 2 fictional children. And so, by the way, I posted this in the Nostalgic PodBlast Facebook group, and I think in a classic TV forum, and somebody said, "What do you mean, fictional children?" I said, "Because they're not real, they're characters. That's what I mean by fictional." I wasn't rude or anything, but I'm like, God, what do you think I mean? Anyway, the Stevens eventually had 2 fictional children. Obviously, you know this. The first child was a girl named Tabitha, whom they spelled this way originally. In the first season 2 episode, it says introducing Tabitha, spelled Tabatha, Tabitha, like take a bath, Tabitha. And then for some reason, they changed the spelling to Tabitha with an I in season 3. And I think it was because of merchandising. And they made a Tabitha doll. I don't know. Someone out there will know the reason. There's a great book I want to recommend, the Bewitched book. It's been around since 1992 by Herbie J. Pilato. It's in the background there. It's a great, great reference guide if you like the show as I do and you want to learn more about the backstory of Bewitched. And it talks about the sad Dick York back injury and the pain pill addiction that caused him to leave the show, and the calling in sick because of his addiction to pain pills, allegedly, supposedly. I mean, hell, that's according to his own son. So I guess there's not much allegation to that. It's just sad. He had a back injury on set that plagued him for many years. But Dick York, of course, was my favorite. Darren probably was yours too. They had great chemistry with Elizabeth Montgomery. So, yeah, the first episode with Tabitha in season 2, that first aired. She made her appearance first on the show back on Thursday, January 13th, 1966. And then her brother Adam hit the scene in the 6th year, the first year with the other Darren, Dick Sargent, back on Thursday, October 16th, 1969 on that telecast. And fraternal twins Aaron and Diane Murphy played Tabitha at first, before producers noticed that Aaron looked most like Elizabeth Montgomery. Fraternal twins, or were they identical? I really don't know. But let's just say twins David and Greg Lawrence portrayed Adam Stevens. Other recasting on the show included nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz, who at first was played by Alice Pierce before she sadly died of cancer in March of 1966 at the end of season 2. Sandra Gould replaced Alice Pierce in the 3rd year and throughout the remainder of the series as Gladys Kravitz. I almost said Alice Kravitz. Gladys Kravitz. There were other cast changes and additions as the show grew. Also, David White's character, Larry Tate, his wife was recast. Casey Rogers played his wife in the color episodes, and then you had Irene Ryan play his wife in the black and white episodes, seasons 1 and 2. Now, let's talk a little bit about Paul Lynde, who's been gone since 1982 from this earth. He played Samantha's prankster brother, Arthur, her uncle. Uncle Arthur. But did you know he only appeared in 10 episodes? It seems like he was in more than that. I guess because those got replayed a lot in marathons and things and binges, because those are some of the funniest episodes, because Paul Lynde was hilarious on Hollywood Squares. Everything he did, he was funny as hell. um, including Bewitched as Uncle Arthur. But did you know he also guest starred in a season 1 episode playing a nervous driving instructor of Samantha Stevens? And it, obviously, an unrelated character to Uncle Arthur, but he was such a hit in that role. And he was taking tranquilizers. He was so nervous. He played like just a nervous character, kind of like Charles Nelson Riley would do in some of his performances on old sitcoms at the time. And so he was such a hit with the viewers, they brought him back as a regular, reoccurring character. And of course, the brother of Endora. And Agnes Moorehead played Endora, the annoying mom of Samantha Stevens, who was the constant thorn in Darren's side, always pulling magic tricks on him, making it rain on him, giving him big ears, turning him into like a pig, literally, with a pig's head, turning him into a statue bust. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Really ingenious stuff these creators thought of on this show. And even with the primitive special effects, I thought it was pretty effective and holds up to this day in most cases. So, not always, but in most cases. And they got away with a lot on this show past the censors because they could mask it as magic. Now, soon after Bewitched ended, Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora, passed away on Tuesday, April 30th, 1974, from cancer, uterine cancer specifically, at the age of 73. After Bewitched ended, some say Bewitched. Sometimes I say Bewitched. You say Bewitched, I say Bewitched. It just varies, it just depends on my mood. But after it ended, the show ended, Elizabeth Montgomery continued her career with roles in numerous television films, including A Case of Rape in 1974, playing Ellen Harrod, and in The Legend of Lizzie Borden in 1975, in the title role of Lizzie Borden, the axe murderer. Both of those roles earned her additional Emmy Award nominations. Elizabeth Montgomery was married many times, starting with a gentleman named Frederick Gallatin. Come on. For 1 year. That's how long the marriage lasted back in 1954. And then she married actor Gig Young from 1956 to 1963. And supposedly he was a raging alcoholic, Gig Young. He'd appeared in the early Twilight Zone episodes as well, or an episode. And then she married, get this, the Bewitched director, William Asher. And they were married for a decade, from 1963 to 1973. And then finally, she was married to the end to her longtime love, actor Robert Foxworth, from 1993 until she passed away in 1995. Throughout her career, by the way, Robert Foxworth creeped me out in the movie The Omen, Damien the Omen 2. He played an evil dude. Ever since I saw him in that movie, he always gave me the creeps. But he's a great actor. And I guess that's why he gave me the creeps, because his performance was just chilling. And Damien, the Omen 2. Damien! Those movies freak me out, man. And I tried to read the novelizations. It's just too spooky, man. That supernatural stuff, that devil stuff just creeps me out. I can't do it. Can't do it no more. I could when I was 18. I can't now. Oh, and Elizabeth Montgomery had 3 children with William Asher, named Rebecca, Bill, and Robert. Other quick notes. I will say this, throughout Elizabeth Montgomery's career, she was much more than an intelligent sex symbol. She never really played a bimbo. I like that. She always played someone with brains. And she touched the lives of many with her charitable work. Such was her popularity that after she succumbed to cancer at the age of 62, on Thursday, May 18th, 1995, a bronze statue of her famous character, Samantha Stevens from Bewitched, was erected in Massachusetts, which sadly was recently, in recent years, vandalized. It's been cleaned up, but some a-hole vandalized that statue. Now, as I said earlier in the program, behind me is every single episode of Bewitched on DVD, which Sony released between 2005 and 2009 in individual season sets. And one cool thing that Sony did was release 2 versions of season 1 and 2. A set in the original black and white, and a colorized version. Now, that makes me want to ask you this question. How do you feel about colorization? I did get the colorized versions because here's my take on it. You can always turn the color setting down on your television. Now, some will say, but it won't look the same. The hue's not right. The contrast isn't right. It's not true black and white. Fair enough, but I would rather have the colorized version than not. So I chose to purchase the colorized version, but I like that Sony gave the fan a choice. They gave the viewer a choice. And the colorization was really good in these, and these were done back in 2000 with 2000 technology, almost 25 years ago. But it looked really good, much better than the colorized Gilligan's Island season 1 that Ted Turner did back in 1990, where it looked like a lame 1983 3D movie on TV with like the red and the blue lines for the red and the blue 3D glasses. But these, on the other hand, looked really decent, as did I Dream of Jeannie season 1 that was colorized by Sony as well and released on DVD, giving the consumer a choice if they want the black and white or color version of I Dream of Jeannie season 1, just like he did for Bewitched seasons 1 and 2. But like I said, a bad thing about these DVDs and the current syndicated reruns on television like Antenna TV and on streaming is that someone is using the season 1 version of the main Bewitched theme. Now, if Al Hardy are watching and go, oh, so what? That doesn't matter. The average person's not going to know the difference. Well, fair enough. But it does matter. To a purist, to someone that's going to shell out money to own a DVD, you want to have it in the purest form possible. That's why it irks me when TV shows are messed with and mucked with. Whether it's cutting out 3 minutes per half-hour show, which is standard practice to fit in more commercial time than they had back in the original 1960s run, or altering the music like they did with the My Three Sons season 1 and 2 DVD set that CBS Paramount put out back in 2008. Movies are not messed with. I've said it before. It's discrimination. Any way you look at it. Why are TV shows allowed to be edited where whole scenes are taken out, which totally affects the storyline of the episode and the continuity? But yet movies are not messed with. I mean, there's censorship of television shows, music alterations. I don't understand it. It must come down to lawyers. I don't know. It must come down to contracts and the Benjamins. And it's sad. I think television should be preserved in its purest form in its original state. That's why I love collecting 16 millimeter film, because you're going to get the original versions, like all those Fall Guys I have the original music, which were changed by Fox in 2006 and 2007 for season 1 and 2. By the way, I've mentioned it before in case you missed it. If you like that 80s cheese, the Fall Guy, like I do, which actually had some really cool moments and more serious episodes than others, they're streaming on Amazon Prime for free. They used to charge like $3.99 an episode for just season 1. Well, they added season 2 recently, which was only available in Europe by Fox, the previous owners of the Fall Guy and producers of it, distributors of it, I should say. In 2007, they released them only in Europe on DVD, and for the first time, they're available in America thanks to Amazon Prime. Yeah, here it is right here. I got it imported from Amazon UK. That's what the season 2 DVD set looks like. Let me show you the back of it. My buddy Hunter's been watching them on Prime, and he noticed, he's like, oh my God, I can't believe Richard Burton's in one. I'm like, yeah, that's one of the last things he did before he died. And he's playing himself, and he's in pretty much almost, I'd say half the episode. It's not just a cameo. I mean, he's in the story on a train going cross country, and Colt's in a car next to him or near him. And, anyway. But poor Doug Barr, he was disrespected by Fox. He's not on the cover of any of the DVD season 1 or season 2 sets. And he was one of the main stars. That was the trifecta. It was Lee Majors, Heather Thomas, and Doug Barr. And then, of course, you had Marky Post as well, and Ned Revolz and Joanne Flug. But that was the trio. And I don't know why Fox did that. And it ticks me off that Doug Barr was not even on the damn back cover of either set. But I miss Elizabeth Montgomery, but she's immortal. thanks to DVD and streaming and 16 millimeter film. I have a bunch of episodes on film. But man, what a legend! So I do want to play. So that the reason I digress there, talking about music alterations, it's as I was saying. I think I've said it 3 times now. I'm repeating myself. That someone at Sony just used the season 1 slow version of the theme and tacked it on to season 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I'm gonna play now the like 1 minute long original opening to season 1, 2, and 3. Now I did play 3 previously with the cool sound effects. I'm gonna play it without the sound effects, so I'm not being repetitive. And then we'll move on to the next topic. But here is the season 1. Excuse me. Here is the season 1 version of the Bewitched theme, and then I can take a swig of coffee. Let's see. Where are you, my little friend? I believe it's right here. Nope. I got it right here, right here, right here. Season. I think it's here. Yeah, this should be it. As we're live, I'm stalling. Yeah, here it is. All right, let's just listen to it. And I hope the bots don't give me grief. This is the version I'm most worried about. I wasn't even going to play it because it's been played ad nauseum everywhere. So that was the season 1 version. I'm going to play the season 2 opening. This is more jazzy, more upbeat. It's got sound effects. This is extremely rare. This is from 16 millimeter film. Here it is. So that's season 2. And I think I want to play the end season 2 music. Yeah, I think this is just, it's in that same orchestration, same style. Check this out. I like this. Sounded like somebody, they probably were, tapping some Coke bottles or beer bottles or something there. No, it's an instrument. Now, let me get on with season 3. I want to play, and then that's the last piece of music I'm going to play of Bewitched, and then we're going to move on to Mad Magazine history and talk about the loss of a legend. This is interesting, and you can see some Mad Magazines behind me. Any viewers out there, if you're listening, I would encourage you to go to the Nostalgic PodBlast YouTube channel and check it out. I know most people watch it. They don't subscribe. I would love it if you subscribe. You don't have to, of course. You could just scan through it. And what's cool is YouTube is putting in marks based on the topic. And I also bookmark everything because I tend to go a little long. So you can get right to the topic of interest, whether it's Mad Magazine or music history or Bewitched, whatever, or comic books. I'm going to do a quick comic book segment later and talk about classic 80s foods or a food. that I loved back in the day. But let me continue on here. Oh, yeah, I got two more Bewitched clips to play, musical clips. This is the season 3 version, my favorite. The opening and closing, I think, is on this clip. That's the writer-director credit portion. I love that Screen Gems logo. It's usually on all my film prints at the end. And here's the final one. This is the opening to season 6 with the narration. This is when Dick Sargent. Damn it, I messed up. This is when Dick Sargent joined the cast, so they had to redo everything, as I mentioned previously. Here it is.
Elizabeth Montgomery in Bewitched.
Yeah, season 3 version was my favorite. Can you wiggle your nose? I was doing that. Look, it's a girl character. I look pretty dumb. I can do it a little bit. I remember one time they ripped it off in Lost in Space. There was an episode where Dr. Smith was wiggling his nose like Bewitched. So stupid. So dumb. So that season 3 was my favorite version. Now let's get on to some sad news. This was reported. Happy birthday in heaven, Liz Montgomery. We're going to move on now. This was reported back in April 2023. This guy had a long life, though. He lived to be 102 years old, and his artwork lives on forever, just like Liz's acting lives on forever through celluloid and film and digital documentation. Mad Magazine artist Al Jaffee has passed away. From the Associated Press, here's the headline. Al Jaffee. Al Jaffee, longtime Mad Magazine cartoonist, dead at 102. This article is written by, I don't know how you pronounce this person's name, Hillel, 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 Idalie. Italie, like lie. Idalie, I guess is how you pronounce it. Hillel Idalie. New York, Associated Press. Al Jaffee, Mad Magazine's award-winning cartoonist, an ageless wise guy who delighted millions of kids with the sneaky fun of the fold-in in the back cover of the Mad Magazine. Remember that? You'd fold it in, you'd see the joke. It'd be a double entendre joke. And also he was the creator of Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions, another favorite feature of mine that holds up to this very day. There's so many dumb people out there this applies to. I love Snappy Answers to Stupid Questions. Well, he passed away at age 102, as I reported to you, or as I shared with you, as you know by now. And he passed away in Manhattan from multiple organ failure, according to his granddaughter, Fanny Thompson. He had retired at the age of 99. Guy, that's just like the announcer on Jeopardy. He's in his 90s and he's still rocking and rolling. Mad Magazine, with its wry, sometimes pointed send-ups of politics and culture, was essential reading for teens and preteens during the baby boomer era. It says baby boom, but I'm going to correct that. Baby boomer era, and inspiration for countless future comedians. Few of the magazine's self-billed, quote, usual gang of idiots, unquote, contributed as much, and dependably, as the impish, bearded cartoonist, Al Jaffee. For decades, virtually every issue featured new material from Jaffee, his collected fold-ins taking on everyone in his unmistakably broad visual style from the Beatles to TMZ was enough for a 4-volume box set published in 2011. Readers savored the fold-ins like dessert, turning to them on the inside back cover after looking through such other favorites as Spy vs. Spy and Dave Berg's The Lighter Side. The premise, originally a spoof of the old Sports Illustrated and Playboy magazine fold-outs and centerfolds, was that you started with a full-page drawing and question on top, and you folded the 2 designated points toward the middle, and it produced a new, surprising, hilarious image along with the answer to the riddle. The fold-in was supposed to be a one-time gag tried out in 1964 when Jaffee satirized the biggest celebrity news of the time, Elizabeth Taylor dumping her husband, Eddie Fisher, in favor of her Cleopatra co-star Richard Burton, whom we mentioned earlier, talking about that Fall Guy episode he was in. And Al first showed Taylor and Burton arm in arm on one side of the picture, and on the opposite side, a young, handsome man being held back by a policeman. Fold the picture in, and Taylor and the young man are kissing. The idea was so popular that Mad editor Al Feldstein wanted a follow-up. Jaffee devised a picture of a 1964 GOP presidential contender Nelson Rockefeller and Barry Goldwater that, when collapsed, became an image of Richard Nixon. Quote, that one really set the tone for what the cleverness of the fold-ins has to be, unquote. Jaffee told the Boston Phoenix in 2010, quote, it couldn't just be bringing someone from the left to kiss someone on the right, unquote. Jaffee was also known for snappy answers to stupid questions, which we said, which delivered exactly what the title promised. A comic from 1980 showed a man on a fishing boat with a noticeably bent reel. Quote, are you going to reel in the fish? His wife asks. No, he says, I'm going to jump into the water and marry the gorgeous thing. Jaffee didn't just satirize the culture, he helped change it. His parodies of advertisements included such future real-life products as automatic redialing of a telephone, a computer spell checker, and graffiti-proof surfaces. He also anticipated peelable stamps, multi-blade razors, and self-extinguishing cigarettes. Jaffee's admirers ranged from Charles M. Schulz of Peanuts fame, Snoopy, and Far Side creator Gary Larson, to Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, who marked Al Jaffee's 85th birthday by featuring a fold-in cake on The Colbert Report. When Stewart said on The Daily Show, writers put together the best-selling America, the book, they asked Jaffee to contribute a fold-in. When I was done, I called up the producer who'd contacted me, and I said, I finished the fold-in. Where shall I send it? And he said, and this was a great compliment, oh, please, Mr. Jaffee, could you deliver it in person? The whole crew wants to meet you, he told the Boston Phoenix. Jaffee received numerous awards and in 2013 was inducted into the Will Eisner Hall of Fame, the ceremony taking place at the San Diego Comic-Con International. In 2010, he contributed illustrations to Mary Lou Wiseman's Al Jaffee's Mad Life, a biography. The following year, Chronicle Books published the Mad Fold-In Collection, 1964 to 2010. Art was saving the presence of his childhood, which left him with a permanent distrust of adults and authority. He was born in Savannah, Georgia. I'm in Georgia. But for years was torn between the U.S., where his father, a department store manager, preferred to live, and Lithuania, where his mother, a religious Jew, I'm quoting the article, I would say Jewish person, a religious Jew, longed to return. So his mom wanted to go back to Lithuania. In Lithuania, Jaffee endured poverty and bullying, but also developed his craft. With paper scarce and no school to attend, he learned to read and write through the comic strips mailed by his father. By his teens, Al Jaffee was settled in New York City and so obviously was so gifted that he was accepted into the High School of Music and Art. His schoolmates included Will Elder, a future Mad illustrator, and Harvey Kurtzman, a future Mad magazine editor. His mother, meanwhile, remained in Lithuania and was apparently killed during the war. He had a long career before Mad magazine. He drew for Timely Comics, which became Marvel Comics, and for several years sketched the, quote, Tall Tales, unquote, panel for the New York Herald Tribune. Jaffee first contributed to Mad in the mid-1950s. He left when Kurtzman quit the magazine, but came back in 1964. Mad lost much of his readership and edge during the 1970s, and Al Jaffee outlived virtually all of the magazine's stars. But he rarely lacked for ideas, even as his method, drawing by hand, remained mostly unchanged in the digital era. Quote, I'm so used to being involved in drawing and knowing so many people that do it that I just don't see the magic of it, unquote. Jaffee told the publication Graphic NYC in 2009. Or Graphic New York City, but it says Graphic NYC in 2009. Quote, if you reflect and think about it, I'm sitting down and suddenly there's a whole big illustration of people that appears. I'm astounded when I see magicians at work, even though I know they're all tricks. You can imagine what someone thinks, and when they see someone drawing freehand, and it's not a trick, it's very impressive. Now I want to play a clip of Al, in his own words, from Beyond the Grave. This is when he was 95 years old, but this is a very impactful interview. And in no way was I intending to do an impression of him. I just was being theatrical. Can't help it. But let's listen to Al in his own words. And this is a great little interview. Let's see how long this clip is. It's 5 minutes long, as I said previously. 5 minutes, 29 seconds long. So I can get in a break. I wanted to do a topic about Mad Magazine, but Al Hardy pointed out, and I think he was right about this. He goes, that's not going to be good audio. And he's right. Until I get software where I can really show page after page, it would really be a bad topic for the PodBlast until I can get it going. And why can't I get this clip going? This is bullshit. Excuse my French.
My name is Al Jaffee.
Here we go. I'm going to pack it up. Here we go.
My name is Al Jaffee, and I'm a journeyman cartoonist. I found my passion for drawing when I was very, very young. I like to do cartooning and sometimes illustration, because that's the thing that I really enjoy immensely. Yeah, I have a certificate that I received on my 95th birthday from the Guinness Book of World Records that I am the longest working cartoonist in history. And it's been a very pleasurable 60 years because I respect the people at MAD. I don't like to use the term we were a family because it's so overused. Everyone's a family. The Yankees are a family. The Dodgers are a family. What you do is you wake up every Monday morning and you say, what am I going to produce now to make a buck? And one morning I woke up and I spread out all the magazines I was subscribing to. The way we work is something triggers a thought, and what triggered in me was, if all of them are doing expensive full-color fold-outs, why doesn't Mad Magazine do a cheap fold-in? Then I looked in the newspaper and there was a story about Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton and Eddie Fisher, accusations that Elizabeth Taylor was going from one guy to another. And I thought, well, you know, that might make a fold-in. The question was something like,
God, I don't kill this bitch. Oh, sorry. It's my ex. I thought I blocked her.
going to be Elizabeth Taylor's next. And we thought it
I
was
take it back. You should never refer to a female as in that term. But this, you know what? I'm gonna put her on the air. You're on the air. I swear to God.
it would be Richard Burton.
Swear to
But if
goodness.
you folded it in, it was just that guy on the right side.
I'll back it up.
And it says some guy. Elizabeth Taylor.
Hey, this might be fun. Hang on a second. Nostalgic PodBlast, you're on the air. You're on the air. Why are you calling me?
I
Hello?
just want to say hi on the air.
Okay, well, I don't want to derail the show now. I was just talking about Al Jaffee, who passed away, one of the great artists of Mad Magazine. He lived to be 102 years old.
Wow. Impressive knowledge.
I owe you an apology because I referred to you as the B word on the air because I was frustrated because you interrupted a clip of mine.
Not very professional, though, was it?
No. And I apologize. And I apologized right after I said it, too, to the audience, to the listeners.
Oh, it's a shame. Well, have fun, Boo. We'll talk later.
Night-night. Sorry about that. Let's get back to the interview. I meant no disrespect to Al Jaffee. Let's get back. I'm going to back it up a second.
Taylor and Richard Burton and Eddie Fisher.
Back it up here.
I spread out all the magazines I was subscribing to. The way we work is something triggers a thought. And what triggered in me was, if all of them are doing expensive full-color fold-outs, why doesn't Mad Magazine do a cheap fold-in? Then I looked in the newspaper and there was a story about Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton and Eddie Fisher, accusations that Elizabeth Taylor was going from one guy to another. And I thought, well, you know, that might make a fold-in. The question was something like, who's going to be Elizabeth Taylor's next? And we thought it would be Richard Burton. But if you folded it in, it was just that guy on the right side, and it says some guy in the crowd. And that was the gag. Took it into the editor, Al Feldstein. I said, Al, I've got an idea that strikes me funny, but you're going to reject it, because if you printed it, it would mutilate a page in the magazine. He looked at it, he says, I like this. And he immediately jumped up and ran into Bill Gaines, publisher, and then came back to me and says, Bill said, let's do it. If the kid folds the page and he feels he's ruined the magazine, he'll buy another magazine for his collection, ever the money man. So I did it. A couple of weeks later, Feldstein rushes up to me and said, where's the next fold-in? I said, Al, there is no next fold-in. That's it. There was a one-time gag. He says, I want another fold-in. So I went back to work, and fortunately there was something good going on at that time where Goldwater and Rockefeller were fighting for the Republican nomination. And an idea popped into my head. The guy who really wants the nomination is Richard Nixon. So I did a fold-in where Rockefeller and Goldwater are debating each other, and when you fold it in, there's Richard Nixon. It's the first one that was a real fold-in. You didn't see Richard Nixon because his face turned out from two lamps that were on either side of the room. So it was a surprise. Well, that set the tone. I figured for this thing to work, the second image cannot be seen in the first image and has to be a surprise. And I've done it now for about 450 times, I guess, and it seems to work. I do them all by hand. I don't use a computer. When I pass on to that Mad magazine in the sky, someone will come in and continue it, I guess, using a computer. It used to take about 7 or 8 days. Now it takes me about 2 weeks from scratch to finish. One thing I can say is that it's been the most pleasurable vocation that I could ever imagine having. I'm not going to retire. They're going to have to suffer the ignominy of firing a 95-year-old man.
It's from 6 years ago, and of course, he did retire at the age of 99. Rest in peace. Now, I have one other piece on Mad Magazine I'm going to share with you, and I want to show some covers from my collection, my Mad Magazine collection. And this is from 60 Minutes from back in 1987. I think this is Morley Safer doing an introduction here, and this will give me a chance to show some Mad magazines and get some more coffee. This is, more importantly for you, this is a great piece of audio and history. And let's listen to it, and then we'll move on to our next topic. Here we go.
Louis Armstrong, Walter Cronkite, Joe Louis, Babe Ruth, and of course, Alfred E. Newman. This fictional face that launched 35 years of Mad magazine. You might have thought that with all the electronic diversions available to kids today, something like Mad would be, if not already dead, then certainly dying. But nope, Mad is alive and kicking as successfully at everything sacred. Still the brainchild, if that's the right word, of this man, Bill Gaines.
We pride ourselves in the fact that we have no philosophy. We have no philosophy, we have no politics, we don't take sides.
We have no morals, we have no scruples.
We have no taste, we have no intelligence.
Yes, we have no bananas.
And that's about it.
Plus, I mean, working for Mad means just never having to grow up.
That, I suspect, is the essence of it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, a new Stallone movie comes out. I mean, and we're there, and we're sitting in the back row just giggling, you know, because we know what lines we're going to write, you know, and just everything is fair game.
Mad is now published in 9 languages around the world, and for 3 decades has been among the top 10 best-selling magazines on the stands. The artists and writers are listed in the magazine as the usual gang of idiots. They are quite talented idiots. One reason for Mad's success may be that, with a few exceptions, it is the same gang who've been turning it out all these years. And these are the key suspects involved with putting it out 8 times a year. Apart from Gaines, the so-called creative staff consists of Nick Meglin, Dick DeBartolo, and on drums, John Ficara.
I would have thought that MAD would be out of business by now, and I'll tell you why. There's so much outrageous, more outrageous than you guys are, stuff available to young people now, that I thought you would kind of look a bit corny in the late 80s.
Well, we don't really know why it works. It's just been working for 35 years, and we try not to analyze it because we may blow it.
Bill Gaines is hardly anyone's idea of a publishing mogul. The magazine works because of, or in spite of, his eccentricities. Beyond the madness, there is a method, or perhaps just old-fashioned integrity. He won't take advertising.
We long ago decided that we can't make fun of Pepsi-Cola and take money from Coca-Cola. That kind of thing.
Could we do it the other way?
That's a good
Did you ever think about that? Think, Bill, think.
And he's turned down potential millions by refusing to license the toys, cartoons, T-shirts, and other spin-offs so common in the kid marketplace.
I just think that sucking every buck out of a product with merchandising is not necessarily the way to go, and MAD doesn't do it.
Most of MAD's sales are made at the newsstands, but among the subscribers are the nation's dentists, a form of passive laughing gas for younger patients. And anyway, more fun than thumbing through Dentists Quarterly. One thing MAD is not, it is not a product of market research.
Bill won't take readership surveys because he's afraid that if we find out the bulk of our readers are 12 to 16 males, that we might start subconsciously pandering to them.
There's never been a demographic study?
Or Republican.
You feel you're back in the Depression at the MAD offices. Neatness does not count. Cheapness does.
Here comes the good questions.
Gaines's penny pinching is legendary.
I have seen Bill break up a conference with the entire staff assembled for 2 days to track down a $1.75 telephone call that no one will fess up to making.
As cheap as he is day to day, he will, on the spur of the moment, take the entire staff to Europe for a couple of weeks for an eating and drinking binge. He once flew everyone down to Haiti to talk the sole subscriber there into renewing.
We all went to his house to beg him to resubscribe to MAD, and he did.
I wonder if you did have advertisers, who would want to advertise MAD?
Well, that's another reason we don't have advertising.
No, I wonder, seriously. Let's think, who would...
Coca
Well,
does
certainly
money
the
at one
soda
point.
companies and the gum companies, I think, would be a prime candidate.
But then we worry because we would hate to have our readers getting cavities because
You
we
would
took
hate
ads.
It's okay to rot their mind, but not their teeth.
We found one 6th grade in suburban New York where 43 of 45 kids were regular readers of a magazine that takes on politics, popular culture, nuclear power, advertising, racism, and just about every other foible of modern life. Even if they don't understand every word of it, they know that adult sacred cows are being deflated, and that may be enough.
Weird. Cool. Funny. I like it. Interesting. My mom thinks it's really dumb, and she thinks that my father is acting like a child when he reads it. When it's dumb, it's funny. Yeah, but sometimes you don't understand the jokes. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Sometimes I have to make somebody explain them to you.
When we were doing the latest Rocky movie, the writer had written a panel where one guy is saying, in this film, Rocky fights someone who hates everything America stands for. And the other person says, my God, you mean he's fighting Louis Farrakhan? And now when we read that, a couple of the associate editors said, gee, you know, I don't think many kids are going to get that. You know, who's Louis Farrakhan? I looked at Nick, and Nick said to me, we don't care if they're going to get it. You know, that's what makes MAD great.
Yeah, there's one, though in a recent issue, the 3 Mile Island Children's Zoo. That's on the edge of being a little bit
but
sick,
there again,
especially when you see what's in
just
that
on the
zoo.
edge. That was very sick.
Right.
And I think that's our purpose there, to show the horror of the reality that happens. I mean, I don't think we're not being cynical. We're not creating something that didn't happen.
And also, if our readership is constantly changing, there are a number of kids who were in diaper or maybe not even born yet when 3 Mile Island occurred. And in a sense, we're educating them to what... Oh, come on, nothing.
No.
You really don't learn anything from it. You just laugh at it.
I think you learn something.
Yeah, I
think you learn something because it shows the messed up animals and it shows about nuclear waste. That it messes you up. It's not good for you.
Maybe he would ask his father, what's 3 Mile Island?
What's Coney Island? Same thing.
That's right, Staten Island.
But you're not in the business of educating.
We certainly have been campaigning against cigarettes for most of our life. Dick has been running articles on deceptive packaging for years and years in MAD, and I like to think that we've made the kids aware of the fact that they should be very careful what they buy.
I think MAD acts as a bridge between adolescence and adulthood, and we sort of start to prime them to the fact that the world ain't such a hot place, and you're going to get burned a couple of times, and don't believe everything you read or what people say to you. That you got to have a healthy suspicion about life.
What is the kind of quintessential person, subject, movie, whatever, that just makes you guys' mouths water?
Pretentiousness.
Yeah.
Pretentious, right. When they are above us in their approach to the film.
Well, that's almost everything in life.
That's why
Shall we go on?
Yeah.
This is going nowhere.
I
agree.
What's next?
Next.
This is the worst we've ever had. I think
MAD visits a modern organ transplant hospital.
The ideas for MAD stories come from everywhere, from Hollywood scriptwriters to a nun in Chicago, but mostly from editorial conferences. See how funny thinking about being funny can be.
What's the title?
What's the hardest part of putting out the magazine?
Stapling it.
The fame of the game.
This is the result of 35 years of fine-tuning the creative process. Bill, was it a success from day one, MAD magazine?
No. I think it became successful with issue 4 when we lampooned Superman. We ran a feature called Super Duper Man. And
that's hilarious.
It was then. You had to be there.
MAD began as a comic book that spoofed comic books, a departure for Gaines, whose main livelihood came from a line of horror, crime, and war books soaked in blood, with names like Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Two-Fisted Tales.
All the wonderful old comics of yesteryear.
All the stuff kids love, all guaranteed to outrage parents. Hey, what do you hear from parents? What do they say?
I think it's the kiss of death that we have parental approval at this point.
We've never sought it.
I would rather be something the kids read with a flashlight underneath the bed at night.
You mean like Playboy?
No, like the Congressional Record.
Wait a minute.
You would think that a place like MAD could only function independently. The fact is, Gaines sold the magazine 20 years ago to Warner Communications, but he was left free to run it.
I didn't sell it to Warner's. I sold it to somebody who sold it to Warner's, to be technical about it.
It's like the Contras deal.
The editorial offices of MAD are guaranteed to dismay any corporate executive who may not understand the value of disorder, even chaos. So Warner's, in their orderly corporate headquarters a few blocks away, wisely keeps its distance. Out of sight, out of mind. I heard a story that as a part of the Warner Communications empire, you as a senior executive, whatever, have to take a medical every year. And the story I heard is that you send somebody else.
Well, you're really blowing it, aren't you?
The culprit, art director Lenny Brenner,
The man whose body is regularly switched with Bill Gaines. Could have been one of those tales from the crypt.
Lenny Brenner loves physicals, and he's in good health, and it's much better that he goes than I go.
You know, I'm wondering about something. That doing this story, showing the brains behind Mad.
This was the bad part.
You think that kids are really going to be shocked when they look at these four faces, disappointed?
Well, hopefully they don't watch 60 Minutes.
I love that interview. A bit long, 12 minutes, but I think it's a great piece of history. And I love that 1987 60 Minutes piece on Mad Magazine. And so here's some brief history about Mad Magazine. I got most of this from Wikipedia, so this isn't going to be terribly original. I just want to give credit where credit's due. And as you heard, it debuted, Mad Magazine did, in August of 1952. Cover dated October, November, but actual street date, August 1952. And it was a comic book size, meaning not a magazine-sized publication. Been showing on camera a few choice Mad magazines from my collection. In fact, I was drawn in one panel of a Mad magazine in a Walking Dead parody. Get to that in a moment. Not trying to make this about myself, but it's something I'm proud of, and I want to share it. Oh, damn, my machine is goofing up tonight, boy. That phone call really threw me. All right, so when it was in comic book form, it was part of the EC line of comics, as you heard, published from the offices on Lafayette Street in Lower Manhattan. In 1961, Mad Magazine moved its offices to Midtown Manhattan. And from 1996 onwards, it was located at 1700 Broadway until 2018, when it moved to Los Angeles, California. This is new information, not in the audio you heard, to coincide with a new editor and a reboot to issue number 1 of Mad Magazine. In the planning stages, the new publication was referred to as EC's Mad Mag. The phrase "tales calculated to drive you mad" above the title Mad referenced the radio's suspense, which often used the opening "tales well calculated to keep you in suspense," with wordplay in vertical subtitle humor in a jugular vein, which hinted at sinister satirical edge. Which it was. And I loved, as you heard him talk about Alfred E. Newman, What Me Worry. That was a great little mascot there. And he was on just about every cover of Mad Magazine in the form of an actor or personality or just as himself. That little dunce kid, Alfred E. Newman. Let's see. I don't want to go too much into this because I think we need to move on here in the interest of time, but so by mid-1953, William Gaines had made plans for expansion. After 9 bi-monthly issues, that means every other month, obviously, Mad became a monthly mag with the April 1954 issue. Okay, let me just scan through my notes here. In a 2016 interview with Gilbert Gottfried, the late Gilbert Gottfried, on his podcast, Al Jaffee remembered it slightly differently, stating that the original comic primarily focused on spoofing newspaper comics. By adopting the broader magazine format, they could lampoon and parody a wide variety of topics. That reminds me, the word lampoon made me think of National Lampoon, the magazine, which was kind of a clone of Mad Magazine, and they would show like topless women in that, in National Lampoon, the magazine. And of course, the movies followed, like Animal House and Vacation. You know that. The rest is history. And many other films that didn't do so well as those two I just mentioned. The immediate practical result was that Mad Magazine acquired a broader range in both subject matter and presentation. It was written on an adult level, just like the Marvel comics that Stan Lee wrote in the 1960s that I've talked about. It was written for college students and soldiers primarily. And magazines had wider distribution than comic books and a more adult readership. Now, God, this is a whole nother subject. The Comics Code Authority, which had proven fatal to most of the EC comic horror titles. There was, that's a whole nother topic. We've talked about it in our comic book edition about seduction of the innocent and the congressional hearings, which led to comic book burnings, censorship, and the seal of approval on the cover of comic books. One time I don't have comic books behind me. Usually there's always comic books I could grab and show you, but there's a little stamp, approved by the Comics Code Authority. That was detrimental in the early days of the Silver Age of comics and the latter end of the Golden Age of comics in terms of censorship. Anyway, I'm just really sad about the law. Even though this man lived to be 102 years old, to be 102 years of age, I'm still very saddened that he is gone, but his life really made a difference, working until the age of 99, producing art. Wow, what a talent. Let's see. Now, when Gaines died, William Gaines, on June 3rd, 1992, Mad became more ingrained. This is after that 1987 interview where you heard him in his own words. They became more ingrained with the Time Warner corporate structure, which did not share William Gaines' idiosyncratic ideas about marketing Mad Magazine. Time Warner turned the magazine over to DC Comics publishers, and DC Vice President Joe Orlando became the magazine's new associate publisher. Closely involved with DC licensing, Orlando had also been a staff artist with EC Comics in the 1950s and a prolific contributor to Mad Magazine during the 1960s. Time Warner put a much stronger emphasis on Mad merchandising and licensing, including products for its chain of Warner Studio stores. Orlando's special projects department at DC Comics hired Bob Stewart to edit a new Mad style guide in 1994, featuring artwork by Sergio Aragonés, Angelo Torres, and George Woodbridge. Eventually, the magazine was obliged to abandon its longtime home at 45 Madison Avenue, printed as Madison Avenue with MAD in caps. Mad, like we're mad. Madison Avenue in the masthead. And in the mid-1990s, it moved into DC Comics' offices at the same time DC relocated to 1700 Broadway. Although Orlando retired from DC Comics in 1996, he continued to design cover layouts for Mad Magazine right up until the month of his death in 1998, well over 25 years ago. But in 2001, the magazine broke its long-standing taboo and began running advertising. Like on the back of this Walking Dead cover I'm showing on camera, there's an ad for the Big Bang Theory television show. I'll show it on camera right there. Yeah. The outside revenue of advertising allowed for the introduction of color printing and improved paper stock. Some black and white material, however, remained in each issue. In April 2009, with issue 500, Mad Magazine contracted from a monthly schedule to a quarterly circulation. So every 3 months they'd have a new issue. Mad editor John Ficarra joked that the move was in response to letters complaining that only every third issue is funny. Quote, so we've decided to just publish those, unquote. The cover price was raised to $5.99. In March of 2010, Mad Magazine became bi-monthly, every other month, coinciding with Paul Levitz stepping down as president of DC Comics. Issue number 533 of Mad Magazine, dated June 2015, on the cover featured Mad's only guest editor to date, Weird Al Yankovic. In 2015, the cover of Hillary and Bill Clinton, a parody of Mad Max Fury Road, was praised highly by the Huffington Post, Sun Times, and many other media. I'm not a fan of the Huffington Post. Issue 550, dated April 2018, was the final issue of the first volume of the magazine, which launched at EC Comics in 1952. Mad Magazine was rebooted with a new #1 dated book in June 2018 and with a new look. After 30 plus years editor John Ficarra retired, with illustrator and comic book artist Bill Morrison becoming the new editor, and the magazine shifted offices to Los Angeles after decades in Manhattan. And that's the beginning of the end for Mad Magazine, just coincidentally. Quickly, here's the very end of my history of Mad Magazine. In 2019, on July 4th of all dates, 2019, it was reported that following issue number 10 of the rebooted Mad Magazine, cover dated October 2019, the future regular issues would no longer contain entirely new content, but would rather contain mostly recycled or reprinted content from the previous 67 years of publication, in addition to a small portion of new content. Wow, that sucks. I didn't know that. In addition, Mad Magazine would no longer be sold on newsstands and was instead available for purchase in comic book shops as well as through subscriptions through the mail. Now I'm going to show you where I was drawn in Mad Magazine. This is your friendly host, Chance Bartels. This is entirely true. I'll show you in a second, anyone watching on camera. With this Walking Dead parody, my image from the show was drawn, and a lot of you were probably saying big deal. Well, to me, it was a big deal just because I'm a almost lifelong Mad Magazine fan and collector. Let me quickly show for the camera. This is bad audio. I know. I'm going to get past this. Bear with me, listeners. Here's an image of me from Walking Dead. And I'll show you what was recreated in Mad Magazine. What's going on in this show of what you see right here? I get shot in the head. The character of Merle Dixon, who was played by Michael Rooker from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Well, this episode of Walking Dead, this is way back in season 1. This is an episode titled Guts, which was the second episode ever of Walking Dead. And that character, Merle, shoots me in the head from a rooftop of a building in downtown Atlanta in the storyline. And in reality, that's where it was shot. No pun intended. And it's in the actual episode. And so I'm in the scope of his rifle as he snipes me. Anyway, this moment was illustrated in Mad, and you may be thinking, well, big deal. Actors like Harrison Ford have been illustrated completely in Mad Magazine in many issues over the decades. Not just in one little frame. You're a narcissist. No. I'm a lifetime fan, and I was honored to be drawn even in one little sketch. It is a big deal to me, and I'm happy to share it with you. Let me find the page. Here's the piece of art. I'm pointing to where I am in the shot, or my likeness is. And you see the guy holding a gun. That's Merle. And he's shooting a little zombie. I'm little. That's why I'm saying this really is me, because they used, I guess, production photos and wardrobe. Here it is in the actual book in the magazine. And then I'll move on. Yeah, here it is. So I can put it on the camera here. I don't know if it's going to show up or not. This is issue 512 of Mad Magazine from December 2011. So it's a while back. But I don't know if it's showing up or not. Anyway, it's true. I was drawn. That's my 2 seconds of Mad Magazine history in the Walking Dead parody titled The Walking Dud. And, it would be nice if I mentioned the artist, Herman Mejia, Mejia. I assume the J is silent. Herman, with 2 N's, Herman Mia. That's great. And the parody was written by Demon Devlin. So, pretty cool. So I was sad when Mad Magazine ceased to be published in print form. It went to a digital format. And that was very, very sad, since I'm a lover of print, and I know a lot of you out there are as well. Should I tell you my zombie joke, since I played a zombie on The Walking Dead? This is a family show. This is a joke that I wrote. I'm going to clean it up a little bit as best I can. Okay, here it goes. A zombie walks into a bar, and here's his pickup line. Hey, baby, why do zombies make better lovers? They always screw your brains out. Get it? Zombies eat brains and love brains. Anyway. Oh, sorry. Of course, I used the F word in the actual joke. By the way, speaking of lovers, most of you know that the state of Virginia is for lovers, and that's, in fact, their state slogan. Well, West Virginia is for cousins. That's the official West Virginia. Okay, I better move along and not quit my day job because I'm not very good at doing some comedy there. Excuse me. Now, we're going to move on. I got another quick clip of some music. It was Roy Clark's heavenly birthday back on April 15th. Roy was born in 1933 in Virginia. And sadly, Roy has passed away. He died back on November 15th, 2018 at the age of 85, and that was on a Thursday. I found this clip of Glenn Campbell totally jamming out in a battle of the guitars with Roy Clark. Roy Clark versus Glenn Campbell. It's only a minute and a half long, so it's not a long clip. And then I want to talk about some board games real quick with you. But check out this complete jam. The audio is marginal in terms of quality. But here it is. I think you can still make it out.
Why don't you just grab a big enough jig going? I'm ready. You start it. Let's hit her home.
That's awesome.
Neurologists are shocked.
Oh, they are?
They have found that tinnitus wipes your memory in less than 3 years. The earbud.
I may redo this whole show over tomorrow at a decent hour. It's as I'm live, 1:30 in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. And, plus that call where I use the B word, and I can't edit it out. I cannot edit it out. But let's get back to some family-friendly topics and nostalgia topics. Okay, I had posted in the Nostalgic PodBlast, I found this cool catalog from 1963 of Milton Bradley board games inside of a Patty Duke Show 1963 board game by Milton Bradley that I have in my collection. And it's like a mint condition catalog, and I just love it. And there's some games I'd never heard of, but a lot of you had. And, blow this up. I'm trying to look. There's, of course, Candyland. Everyone knows that. Chutes and Ladders was in the catalog. Oh, I love this game. Uncle Wiggily game. That was a good childhood game. Concentration, based on the classic game show. Password, based on the Alan Ludden classic television game show. Easy Money was another board game. I'd never heard of that one. Rack-O. Oh, wow. Alfred Hitchcock's Why. A lot of people remembered that one. And had commented as that being something they'd forgotten all about, and they loved that game growing up. Magic Mary was a game, and of course the Game of Life. We all know that. Let me see. Vicky George Surges, I had most of those games. I totally forgot about Alfred Hitchcock's game, but I don't think we ever figured it out. I still play Candyland and Chutes and Ladders with my granddaughter. She is 6 years old, and we modified both games to make them more exciting. I love that. And Elizabeth Jinks, Candyland and Chutes and Ladders were among my favorite board games. And let me see. That was one image from the catalog. That was the interior, and then there was the front that's really cute. There's a cute image of a family unit walking amongst Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. It's just a really nice little piece of artwork. And then the back, here's the games in the back there. This is a cool sounding game. Do you remember this game? Game of the States. And then there was Pirate and Traveler. Another game, Battle Cry, Broadside, Dogfight, and hit the beach. And those are war games. I think that's pretty cool. And Patricia Russell commented, I loved Game of the States. My sister and I would play all the time. It was an excellent way to learn where cities were within the United States without us even knowing we were learning at the time. That's the best kind of learning, isn't it? When you don't know you're learning. I often wished it was around when my kids were children. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then someone commented, we played the game as well. Vicky George Surges replied to Patricia and made that statement. And then I think there were more. I know June chimed in. Where is it? Okay, so let me read these to you. Some other favorites and some interesting comments here. June chose Monopoly, Sorry, which was a Parker Brothers game. That doesn't matter. I asked, what's your favorite board game? Doesn't have to be Milton Bradley. And I have that game. I love that game. Sorry. Remember that one? And Parcheesi. I remember Mom liked Yahtzee, and I still play Scrabble to this day with my mom and some of my friends. I do that as often as I can. It just keeps the mind sharp, and I've always excelled at word games, and I'm a fair writer. I'm terrible at math, but I've always was good with history and writing. But what did June say? I think she said something else. June Farr Newell says, those were the days before cell phones and video games when we had to find other ways to entertain ourselves. That's cool. And that's very, very true. And Vicky George Surgis, we didn't like concentration because it required 3 people and one wasn't really playing. Now, concentration had a puzzle you had to solve on rollers. It was a paper puzzle. And I beg to differ with Vicky. I liked concentration as a young child. I thought that was a very, very fun and interesting game because I love the artwork and just you had to match the match the numbers to get the prize. I just like the whole process of the game. I think it's pretty cool. And someone else says we still play many of those games and other games all the time. So I appreciate everyone for commenting on that did. Really appreciate it. Wow, let's see here. Let's get to the next item here, folks. By the way, on the Facebook group, the Nostalgic PodBlast, we hit a little milestone. I'm very grateful. Over 5,000 members, so I want to thank you 5,000 times. I did a post about that. I know most people don't take the time to listen or watch this show. They're just there to be a part of another nostalgia group on Facebook. They like the articles and the pictures, and I get it. But it doesn't matter. I'm still grateful for everyone being a part of our group. And it's growing. And I'm very grateful. Thank you. Now I want to talk about some classic game shows very briefly. This is a topic I've covered several times on the show. But this is some new content and a bit of a little rant about something that's going on with a channel that I love, the Buzzer Network, which is a national television network that airs classic game shows in the United States of America, and they stream as well. They're on Pluto TV. So if you don't have an affiliate in your area, like here in Atlanta, Georgia, WAGA TV is the Buzzer main station or affiliate. And it's one of the WAGA TV sub-channels, they call them. And you don't have to have a cable service to pick it up if you're within range of the signal. You can use digital rabbit ears on a digital television and pick up any diginet, as I call it, and others call it, Buzzer specifically, and MeTV, Antenna TV, all these great free networks. If you're within range of an affiliate, you could pick them up for free. But they're also, MeTV is not on Pluto TV, but as I said, Buzzer is. But last time I talked about being irked about censorship of the Bob Barker era Price is Right in terms of a game called Bump. I'm not going to rehash that, anyone that tuned in last time, because I went into great detail. Basically, it was a game introduced in 1985 that supposedly, reportedly, will be unaired on Pluto TV's The Price is Right, the Bob Barker era channel, because it showed 2 of the female models bumping their hips, not together like bumping booties, but bumping this little rail car train that the contestant designates that's not the right price. Bump it out of the way. And Diane Parkinson did a little wind up when there was like a drum roll piece of music attached to it eventually as the game evolved. And some deemed it too sexy or inappropriate. Now, yes, there was legal wrangling and between CBS and Bob Barker and the models, and all that has been settled, though. That's settled. So I don't know why it would be an issue today. But anyway, but here's where I made a mistake. I need to do a little correction corner. I laid the blame, in my opinion, on CBS Paramount because they bought Pluto TV. And I thought, based on past instances that are proven, that someone at CBS Paramount and their CBS streaming division was mandating that those episodes get bumped. And what sucks is they have been running every episode where the tape isn't damaged in aired order for the first time in over 35 years, in many cases, starting with the year 1982. And so now they're getting up to 1985, and these are the last years with my favorite game show announcer, Johnny Olson. He died in late 85, I think October 85, passed away, and then he was replaced. So what would happen is the episode of his, I think the first episode with Rod Righty couldn't air because it contained this game bump. Well, now I'm thinking it might be Buzzer or a new employee or someone that is now affiliated with Buzzer who wasn't before has come in and asked for more censorship of game shows. Here's why I say that. There's a rerun, is that a word, rerun? There's a rerun of an old game show called Body Language that airs every morning, currently as live on Buzzer from 9 a.m. to 10. They play 2 half-hour back-to-back episodes of a show called Body Language. This was a game show on CBS between 1984 and 1986, hosted by Tom Kennedy, who was the brother of Jack Nars. They're both deceased now, sadly. And Body Language was a pantomime game show similar to charades. The game of charades were celebrities and adult and sometimes teenage contestants and teenage celebrities would play the game, obviously for money. Well, I noticed in a recent episode the word midget is definitely muted, and it wasn't muted on CBS. It was muted on the Buzzer rerun level. And also, they cut an entire few seconds when the word was chopsticks. All right, in the game, the object of the game is to solve a series of puzzles, and they have to act out 5 words within 60 seconds and get as many words as they can, which will be put onto the puzzle. When I say puzzle, it's a paragraph, and you have to, and the contestant has to decide or determine what that puzzle is. Like it could be, say, softball. That's the answer, softball. Anyway, you get it. This is not rocket science. So the word was chopsticks, and innocently, one of the celebrities and the contestants, they did their eyes, they made their eyes look Asian with their hands, and that got edited out. And again, it's not about the race aspect. It's just about censorship. I don't like censorship. That's why I like these old game shows. Things weren't so rigid in those times in the 80s and the 70s, and you hear Richard Dawson saying all sorts of outlandish things, and I find that funny because you're like, God, I can't believe they did that back then on TV. That's what's fun, is to compare it to today's times, and I just think it's a shame. They never censored the word midget before. This is a recent thing, and I just found it a little distressing and upsetting. I've always just had so much fun watching, on occasion, some reruns on the Buzzer network of these classic game shows, and now they're getting messed with. So now I'm thinking it's someone actually at Fremantle Media who owns the the Mark Goodson, Bill Todman Library of Game Shows, that's decided to censor this and other aforementioned words and images. But some quick history on Body Language, and I want to play a couple clips. Body Language aired on CBS. As I said, here's more specifics on that, from Monday, June 4th, 1984 until Friday, January 3rd, 1986. At that time, Tom Kennedy was known for previously hosting Name That Tune with Kathy Lee Johnson. You know who she is? She later became Kathy Lee Gifford of the Regis and Kathy Lee, what was that show called? Damn, there was a name. Live. That's it, Live, with Regis and Kathy Lee. And but before she was a Gifford, she was a Johnson, and she was singing very well. And you can't see reruns of Name That Tune because of music royalties and music rights issues, and it's a shame. That was a fun show, I remember as a little kid. I haven't seen it since I was probably in single digits age. But that was a cool show that Tom Kennedy hosted. He also hosted Password Plus after Alan Ludden sadly passed of cancer. He hosted a game show, WHEW, like that was a close one, which was a weird show. It wasn't a Goodson Todman show, but it's aired on the Buzzer Network through a licensing agreement. Anyway, I want to play just a little bit of how the show opened. This is from an April 12th, 1985 episode, and you're going to hear a clip from the opening of a Teen Week episode with two people who are still very active. They were teenagers at the time. They're very active in the business today, both of them. And the theme song, by the way, to me, it sounds like they were copying Michael Jackson style Thriller, like a song from the Thriller album. You'll hear what I mean. I mean, it just sounds like Score Productions, which was the company that Goodson Todman used to score most of their themes, hired for Body Language. I think they were sort of getting a Michael Jackson vibe. But listen to who was who the celebrity teen players were at the time.
It's the game for the uninhibited. Our stars for this special All Teenage Week are from Facts of Life, Kim Fields, and from It's Your Move, Jason Bateman. Watch their bodies do the talking on Body Language. And here's the star of Body Language, Tom Kennedy.
Hello there. In answer to the response, I should say, in answer to the request that has been made throughout the year to show younger people on our show, we have this week Teen Week, and we have as one of our teen stars Miss Kim Fields from the Facts of Life. And Kim is playing beautifully with these young compatriots of hers, and they are racking up money for their future educations, and we're having great fun, aren't we, Kim?
Yes, definitely.
You bet. You look terrific today.
Thank you.
Are you all set to play?
Uh-huh.
I'd like to meet your new partner. Ladies and gentlemen, the other half of the green team is Damon Watson. Hello, Damon. Nice meeting you, Damon. Damon, tell us about yourself, would you please?
Well, I'm 13. I go to the Merman School, and in my pastime, I like track, and I just like track.
Well,
and
that's
I want to
good
be in the
enough.
Olympics one day.
That's a great sport. Of course, there's a...
Bear with me. I want to get to Jason Bateman here. This is kind of interesting.
That you can run, you can jump, you can pole vault.
And hurt yourself.
And you... All right, Damon. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Bateman from It's Your Move. Hey, Jason. Thank you for taking time out from your show to come over to help us on our show.
No problem.
Had you ever watched this show before you came on it?
Definitely.
You had?
About 5 or 6 times, you know, when you get sick and you're home and you're flipping the dials. It's Tom Kennedy.
We have a lot of sick people watching this show. We're happy to have you on our show, Jason.
Good to be here.
I want you to meet your new partner, and that sweet young face belongs to Julia Albert. Hi, Julia. How are you? That's good.
All right, I can stop. I thought that was a little
You
funny.
think this was a good idea?
I think that was a little funny. And that theme I was talking about, where the hell is that? Oh, wrong clip. I'll play a little bit of the theme with that Michael Jackson-esque music. Come on, you little bugger. God, I don't know what's happening tonight. I may have to do this whole show over at a decent time. See, it's all like, you want to be starting something, got to be starting something. Michael Jackson vibe for sure. Now, what would happen with these game shows, you remember this, they would have to, not really beg, but they would need to plug for contestants to audition to appear on the show and play the game. And there was a separate piece of music that was recycled as the opening theme of a later game show about a year and a half later. And I'm going to play the actual contestant plug. This from Body Language, separate piece of music than what you just heard. Just for historical purposes, I want to play this. And here's the great Johnny Olson doing the contestant plug. This is only 25 seconds long. Listen. Friggin' figures it didn't work. Hang on, guys and gals. This was recycled. This will sound familiar to you.
If you'd like to become a contestant here on Body Language, just send us a postcard with your name and address to Contestants, Body Language, 6430 Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood, California, 90028. Or, if you are in Southern California, then call area code 213-467-5100. Here again is Tom Kennedy.
All right, Johnny, thank you very much. Lisa Feinberg.
So, you heard that little piece of music. Where is this now? Did it sound familiar to you? Well, as I said, it was recycled a year and a half later as the main theme to Classic Concentration, hosted by Alex Trebek on NBC, rival network to CBS, that was originally scored for. And Classic Concentration aired on NBC from Monday, May 4th, 1987, until September 20th, my dad's birthday, 1991, of all new episodes, but it kept running with reruns broadcast on NBC through January 14th, 1994 on that network. But here is how that music was reorchestrated without all that talking. I'm going to play a little bit of it. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to play a little bit of it. You get the idea. I'm going to cut it. I played it before on Retro Music Cuts on Fistful of Radio. And on this very program, the Nostalgic PodBlast. But that was all originally scored for Body Language. Kind of lame they recycled it. Kind of like it, though, the music. Jamming out, huh? Dancing like fools. Doing the snake dance. I'm easily amused. No, don't play more of that stuff. Yeah, this is only a few seconds. I want to hear the opening of it real quick. I've never played this on the PodBlast before or on Fistful in retro music cuts. All right, we've heard all that enough. It's getting repetitive. Gotta move along. I just think it's so interesting how all this music was like recycled and scored, and they scored that whole piece just for a contestant plug. I think that's interesting. I don't know. It's strange, huh? But Goodson Todman also recycled the main theme to another Alex Trebek game show back in the 70s called Double Dare. Double Dare aired from December 13th, 1976 until April 29th, 1977 on CBS, so it didn't last long. Not to be confused with another game show with the same name, Double Dare, which was on Nickelodeon cable television from 1986 until 1993, hosted by Mark Summers, Summers. Mark spelled M-A-R-C. But the original Double Dare, very first episode sounded like this, and you're going to recognize this music from another game show. And I know a lot of folks out there are very, very intelligent, and you know which one it is before I even say anything. But let me. Whoa, here it is.
Take a risk. Take a chance. Take a dare. Play the game of Double Dare. With the host of Double Dare, Alex Trebek.
Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Double Dare. This is a brand new game that has us all very excited. We like it, and we hope you wind up liking it just as much. Very briefly, let me say that Double Dare is a game of knowledge and nerve, and you're going to find out in a few moments exactly what I mean when I say that, right after we introduce our contestants. So let's go over and meet the players, shall we?
Alex, here's challenger number 1, Jana Klatzman.
Hello, Jana.
Hi.
Okay, you catch the drift there. But did you notice that theme? It was reused or repurposed as the theme to the original game show Card Sharks, hosted by Jim Perry. And he hosted it from Monday, April 24th, 1978 until Friday, October 23rd, 1981 on NBC. I'm going to play another. That clip, by the way, was the first episode of Double Dare, December 13th, 1976. That audio you heard of Alex Trebek trying to sell the new game show to the viewers and the public. I'm going to play a little bit of the August 28th, 1978 edition of Card Sharks. This is the first episode with the Money Cards revision. So it's not the very first episode, but it's an earlier episode. And listen to how they recycled the music from Double Dare. Let me get this. Just a couple seconds of it. Here's the opening.
Roses are red, violets are blue, aces are sweet, and so is the 2 on Card Sharks. And here's the host of Card Sharks, Jim Perry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Thank you for joining us at home. Thank you.
That was a very good opening poem, Gene. I was wondering when someone was going to send in Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue. That was sent in by Greg Larson of Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you, Greg. And now let's open the board and get to the cards. Janice and Bettina, if you will, start loading in the cards, and we will meet our players on Card Sharks.
See how they reuse that music from Double Dare? I kind of don't blame them because that show didn't last very long. So and really body language didn't last that long either. So they had to recoup their losses in some regard, in some cases, and they chose to recycle that music. And of course, Card Sharks returned with a new host after 1981 on a new network, CBS, hosted by Bob Eubanks. That version started on Monday, January 6th, 1986, and it ran through March 31st, 1989, which was a Friday. Also, a guy named Bill Rafferty hosted the nighttime syndicated version of the CBS Card Sharks, but it was syndicated on other stations besides CBS stations. The nighttime version was during this general time period, but he only hosted that nighttime version between 1986 and 1987. A fun fact about one of the Bob Eubanks and Bill Rafferty Card Sharks models named Lacey Ann Pemberton, and she was born on March 16th, 1956 in Chicago, Illinois, is that now she is the Bachelor and the Bachelorette reality show casting director and has been for about 20 years, more than 20 years. I think that's interesting. The other model on the on Card Sharks in the Bob Eubanks CBS version and the nighttime version was named Susanna Susie Williams, and she was born in 1962 in Dallas, Texas. After Card Sharks left the airwaves in March of 1989, Susanna left the world of television altogether. And during the 3.25-year run of the Eubanks version of Card Sharks and her one season in the nighttime version hosted by Bill Rafferty, she was the longest-serving model on all versions of Card Sharks combined. A little factoid there for you. Now, this is a brief little bit of that version of the theme. And I'm leading up to something. ABC, I thought, did something that wasn't too smart. I don't know, or the producers, I should say. It wasn't ABC. They just aired the damn thing. But this is, of course, what the Bob Eubanks Card Sharks theme sounded like, if I could get this thing to work. I may scrap this entire show and redo it at a decent hour when I'm rested, because I'm making a lot of mistakes as we're live. And plus that phone call. I know there's going to be... I'm going to be asked to edit out that phone call by the person that called in. I can see it coming. So I'm just going to see what happens. But I got stuff to do, family show tomorrow. I don't know when I could redo this show. But let's listen to the 1986 to 1989 theme of Card Sharks, which was an original composition by Score Productions for the revival of Card Sharks. So flash forward decades beyond 1989 to the time when ABC TV brought Card Sharks back with another host, of course, comedian Joel McHale. But this is kind of dumb, I think. This was the mistake the producers made. They used the Double Dare Card Sharks theme instead of this version. That ABC version did not last very long. It was on in prime time from June 2019 until July 2021. There were two models, as there always are on Card Sharks, or card handlers. There was a dude and there was a female. The female is Alexis Marie Gobb. She was born on July 14th, 1989 in Dayton, Ohio. And since that version of Card Sharks folded, see what I did there? I'm kidding. She moved on up and came on down to The Price is Right as a model, which she does to this day here in 2023. And I think she's cute as a button. And I like when host Drew Carey, he always, towards the top of the show says hi to the models, whether they're male or female models, because they have guy models on there now too, an Australian dude and an African-American dude. But she tickles me because she's just got this cute little voice. He goes, say hello to Alexis Cobb. And she goes, hi, Drew. I can't do it. I did it better when I was with Al last time. I did it. And she goes, hi, Drew. And she's got kind of a silly smile. I don't know. I don't mean to knock her because I'm a fan. I think she's really cute. Not a fan like an inappropriate fan, but I think she does a good job as a model. But it tickles me. She goes, hi, Drew. Just sounds like a cartoon character. Funny. Anyway. By the way, back to body language real quick. Buzzer, I think I mentioned this, airs two episodes of Body Language back to back, Monday through Friday, currently, from 9 to 10 a.m. So, related item. No, I don't want to talk about Bump. That's rehashing too much. Yeah, I already talked about that, how I laid the blame on CBS Paramount for bumping Bump, but I think it might have been a new person at Buzzer. It's a little too woke over there or something. Excuse me. I have a very quick fun item for you of nostalgia. For any of the nerds and nerdettes out there, which classic TV spaceship was your favorite? Think about that for a second. I have some in the background here. Anyone that's watching this on video, and the Nostalgic PodBlast YouTube channel, on the Nostalgic PodBlast YouTube channel, or in the Nostalgic with a C, it's not nostalgia, the Nostalgic PodBlast Facebook group. You'll see some spaceships in the background, but I'm asking, which classic TV spaceship design was your favorite? Was it the USS Enterprise in Star Trek? Was it the Battlestar Galactica battleship from that program, the original version from 1978 to 1980? Was it the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space? Or maybe it was the alien spacecraft from The Invaders, a Quinn Martin production. And there might be some others too. Could be the Spindrift from Land of the Giants. That was kind of a cool looking orange ship. I don't have that represented on camera. But if you notice in the background, I have a Jupiter 2 over yonder by the lamp. I have a USS Enterprise, a sealed model, and one that I built back in 1986 when I was 15 years old. And I have Invaders. That's a monogram reissue of the classic 1968 Invaders kit, and it's been retitled the UFO because no one thought, when it was reissued, that anyone know what the Invaders was anymore. Because that was probably, I got to look at the back of that. I think it was in the 1990s when that was reissued. Yeah, I know it was. So what was your favorite? I'll just tell you mine. The Jupiter 2. Here now is the Jupiter 2, culmination of intensive research. And look at this here model I have, for the listener, I'm going to try to it has landing gear that goes up and down. It's got little figures in it. And I usually don't collect toys anymore. Nothing against people that do, because I collect all sorts of things that are sort of childish and nerdy by some accounts, like comic books and Mad magazines, I guess you could say. I have things that are very valuable and things that aren't worth anything but sentimental value to me, sentimentally. But I love this model of the Jupiter 2. Let me put that on camera close up. That's my favorite of the 1960s and 70s era spaceships. Or the Eagle. I have the Eagle too. That's a good choice. I should have mentioned in my notes. I have that right here. The Eagle. It's not very aerodynamic. This is from Space 1999, which was produced between 1973 and late 76 in England at Pinewood Studios. But Brian Johnson did the effects, and I think the Eagle, it doesn't look very aerodynamic. Like if you're in a space battle, you get blown out of the sky pretty quick. But it's a cool looking ship, and it has a little module let me see if I can get this to detach. This module, anyway, the people go inside this module. The pilots obviously are in the front, and it looks like a hornet, like a cross between an airplane and a hornet. And they had other ships. I don't think I have one with me, called Mark 9 Hawks, which were on Space 1999. They were like warships. But hang on, folks. Yeah, it detaches. This is just it's a dinky. Dinky was, no pun intended. This is the manufacturer of this toy was Dinky Toys, and they made die-cast metal spaceships. They made the Star Trek Enterprise from the motion picture movie and the Klingon warship from Star Trek the motion picture and the 70s version of the Enterprise as well. But they were a popular, at the time in the 1970s, toy manufacturer of spaceships. So I should show no disrespect to the Eagle and represent that. I should have had that in my notes. What was I thinking? I guess I wasn't thinking. Let me see how that looks on camera real quick before I move on. Oh, you can barely see the Jupiter 2 in the shot. Let me see if I can bump it up. Well, let me hold it up. It's just a nice detailed spaceship of the Jupiter 2. Nice. There, that looks cool. Look at that. I think it's radical, man. I like it. I'm worse than a Toys R Us kid. I ain't never gonna damn grow up. And that's okay, because I'm happy. Happy. Oh no, the landing gear. Let me get this right. I'm sorry, listeners. This is bad audio. There, I got it. Sit right there. On the box there, comic book box. So let's see what's going on here. That's the Jupiter 2, and that gets my vote as the coolest spaceship design of the 60s. By the way, speaking of invaders, actor Roy Thinnis recently turned 85 years of age. He's still with us. Back in April 2023, Roy Thinnis turned 85. And he starred as architect David Vincent. And before I discovered the invaders, the only architect I knew on TV was Mike Brady on the Brady Bunch. And I like Mike Brady. He reminds me of our real dad. Mike Brady reminds me of my dad. I always liked that character, and Robert Reed was playing a serious role on Mannix all the while. Again, this is something I didn't realize until I was probably in my 30s, that he was acting in Mannix at the same time as the Brady Bunch. And you remember when, I guess, the curly hair was the afro, if you will, was Robert Reed's real hair? Or maybe it was a perm. It had to be a perm, right? I don't know if he straightened his hair or if it's naturally curly. I don't know, and I don't really need to know. It's TMI. But point being, when he let his curly hair happen on the Brady Bunch, he still straightened it on Mannix, which I thought was interesting. He never wore the fro on Mannix, even though those episodes were being produced at the same time. So interesting. I don't know. But happy 85th birthday to Roy Thinnis, architect David Vincent, in Quentin Martin's dramatic series The Invaders, which aired on ABC in the 1960s. Talked about it a lot here on the Nostalgic PodBlast. Roy Thinnis was born on Wednesday, April 6th, 1938 in Chicago, Illinois. And he also acted in The Untouchables, 12 O'Clock High, which is another great Quentin Martin show based on the movie 12 O'Clock High, World War II drama. I know our friend Al Hardy loves that show. I have some on 16mm film myself, including one with Beau Bridges, guest star. The older brother of the dude, Jeff Bridges. Beau Bridges' is older brother. And Roy Thinnis also acted in General Hospital, The Long Hot Summer. When I was with Al Hardy, I talked about him being on Peyton Place, and I think I made a mistake. I know he was on The Long Hot Summer. I thought he was also on Peyton Place, even if it was just a guest role, but I couldn't find that. But a lot of times IMDb is incomplete or inaccurate altogether. But I could have sworn, someone out there correct me in the comments whenever you happen to watch this, or just write in, was Roy Thinnis also on Peyton Place? Primetime soap. I don't know. But he was in The Long Hot Summer. And he also acted in Battlestar Galactica, the 1978 original, in a 2-part episode, Gone on Ice Planet Zero. And he played a prisoner. He had a cool role, a big scar across his face, the makeup people put on there. But of course, he I don't want to give it. Oh, hell, it's from 1978. Hell, I don't need to do a spoiler alert. It's old news. But he does good in the episode. I'll just leave it at that. But that was kind of a neat episode, and it predated The Empire Strikes Back. They're on an ice world in that episode, in that 2-parter, Gone on Ice Planet Zero. And you totally could see where Lucas, I know he got irritated with Glenn Larson for ripping off Star Wars with Battlestar Galactica. Went to court. 20th Century Fox, Team Star Wars sued Battlestar Galactica and Universal, Team Universal, and they lost. And it was over the use of laser guns. George Lucas's team contended, you can't show laser beams. That's our thing. The spaceships look the same. The Vipers look the same as the Rebel fighters. Dude, they had laser guns in Lost in Space in the 60s, that laser effect. And in fact, Battlestar quit doing lasers. It would just show like a beam of light coming off of the gun when it would fire. If you recall, the old Battlestar, not the one from the early 2000s, which was also cool as shit. Sorry, Family Show, cool as spit. Enjoyed that as well. Oh, yeah, man, I forgot this thing I was going to play for you. I forgot it last time. I have a funny clip of Kurt Russell. I might as well play it now while I diverted into sci-fi 60s land. And of course Roy Thinnis was in the X-Files. How could I forget that? Let me conclude talking about Roy Thinnis, about the smoking man in the X-Files. I'm sure a lot of you out there were saying, you idiot, Chance, what about the X-Files? Yes, of course. Many years later, he was in the X-Files. And they did an Invaders, miniseries. But he was hardly in it. Roy Thinnis was in it, and it wasn't very good. But anyway, I digress. And Roy, happy birthday. Big fan. I got his autograph, authenticated and everything. Great guy. Hope he lives to be 100 and beyond. Glad you made it to 85, brother. Enjoy your work. And The Invaders was a great show. It should have lasted longer. It got bad scheduling. So, I forgot to play these clips last time. All right, I'm referring to the nostalgic PodBlast I did about a month ago or so. Let me tell you what we're talking about so you know what I'm referencing. I did the history of the Marvel 1968 big premiere issues, and I did a little bio piece on Deborah Winger, the actress Deborah Winger. And when I covered Kurt Russell's birthday, I'd pulled clips, some funny audio clips I forgot to play of him on Lost in Space, where his character was being sexist by today's standards, and any standards. Even then, he was sexist. So I want to play them now. Let's listen to them now. They're very brief. And these are unintentionally hilarious today. And this is from, by the way, the black and white Lost in Space episode titled The Challenge, which originally aired on CBS back on Wednesday night, March 2nd, 1966. And incidentally, this was one of the ones that was preempted, the episode that was preempted. I'm getting texts coming in. Preempted meaning at the end of they had a cliffhanger ending in the first two seasons of Lost in Space that would say to be continued next week, same time, same channel. And Batman copied that. Same bat time, same bat channel. It was the same studio, 20th Century Fox, that produced Batman and Lost in Space. Lost in Space was first. So it was really no harm, no foul, although Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward was on ABC, Lost in Space was on CBS, so they were in rival networks. But let me play for you now a clip of Kurt Russell's character, who is completely sexist. God bless America. I'm having so many problems tonight as we're live. Where are you, my little friend? I got to make sure I do this in the proper order. I think this is it. God, I hope it is. Let's see if this will work. I am messing up bad tonight, folks. I apologize.
All season long as the reigning champion.
No, that's UGA. That's not it. It's here. There it is.
I'm Will Robinson. I am called Quantum. I am 12 years old. I am very brave and strong. Would you like to fight and see who's the better man?
Fight? I'd rather be your friend.
You are afraid of me. You are a coward.
You'd better watch who you're calling names, because if you're looking for a fight...
Now, you take it easy, Will.
Tough guy.
How did you learn our language?
From my father. He knows many languages.
How long have you been here?
I do not speak to weak and worthless girls.
Why, you conceited, dirty-faced little boy. You're nothing but a bully, a half-pint bully.
Luckily, you are female, or I would make you sorry for what you have said.
Hostile little ruffian. Some discipline applied to the seat of your trousers is exactly what you need.
A hot bath and some good food is more to the point.
All right, so that's clip 1 of 3. That was the longest one of the 3. Here's clip 2.
And another abject subject to his kingdom.
Here are the vegetables you wanted, Mom.
Oh, you do the work of women. You should be ashamed. Thank you, dear.
If no one else
else needs me, I'm going hunting for rock specimens. I too am going hunting. Shall we go together?
Sure, why not? I'm coming along too.
You will stay. You are not asked. Let us go.
I won't be going long. Oh, that hard little boy.
I don't think Quanah would mind being called horrid, but I think he'd object most strenuously to being called a little boy.
And then the final clip of obnoxiousness from Kurt Russell's character.
To me. Greetings.
Good morning, Quanah.
Greetings to all of you.
Your Highness.
Are you ready?
We're all set.
Then let us go.
I'm coming too.
You will stay here. Females are not allowed in a challenge. It is only for men.
Oh, please, Dad, can't I go along? I promise I won't be any trouble.
Penny, I think it's best that you remain behind with your mother.
Remain? You mean I'm not allowed to go either?
This time we'll play it by their rules, darling.
I hope Will pins your ears back.
Yeah, you tell him, Penny. Angela Cartwright. All right, that was it. I wanted to play that last time when I talked about Kurt Russell's birthday. I thought those clips were kind of funny by today's standards or any standards. So moving on, my comic book people, my wonderful fellow comic book people, thank you for your patience. To those who stuck around patiently while we're live or even after the fact, but you can of course skip ahead. I'm putting chapters on YouTube so you can get exactly right where you want to be to hear the topic that you care about. That's nostalgia oriented. And this will help you save money. I got a hot tip. It'll help you save time and money. And hear me out. If there's any comic book store owners out there, bear with me because I'm not going to throw you under the bus. But let me just say this. Here's the hot tip. Do not buy comic book supplies from a brick and mortar comic book shop. I repeat, do not buy comic book supplies from a brick and mortar comic book shop. I'm talking about comic book bags or backing boards, boxes, whatever. Now, support your local comic shop by buying reading materials there. But for supplies, Amazon is your best friend. Now, you may not like Amazon, but I saved a lot of money. And, you know, I think it's great that comic shops offer those supplies for those that need it. Like if you're near a comic show and there's a shop in the area and you need supplies in a hurry for whatever reason, that's fine. But let me give you an example. I'm not going to name names. My local comic shop wanted over $13 for 100 comic book bags. Now, comic book bags are just like they sound to anyone out there that's not a collector. They're literally plastic sleeves you put the comic book in, the ungraded, as they call, raw comic book to protect it. These are acid-free bags, polypropylene, and they counteract the coloring agents that turn the pages yellow and brown. It keeps the pages white if you keep changing the bags every, 6 years or so. So my comic book shop wanted $13 plus tax for 100 of these, of modern comic bags. You know how much they were on Amazon? $6.99 with free shipping. Now, I am a Prime member, so I get free shipping. You may not get free shipping, but you know, the way it used to be, I think it still is, even if you're not a Prime member, if you spend X amount of dollars, I think $30 or more, you get free shipping anyway. So that's a pretty damn good deal. Get this. I scored 100 modern bags. I scored 100 Silver Age bags. I don't know if you can see this on the camera or not. And 100 magazine size bags. This is the shipment they all came in that I use for Mad magazines, Dynamite magazines, collectible magazines. Keep them in good condition. The smut I just leave to its own device. I'm joking. No, for the collectible stuff, I got all of those items for $25. And it came the next day. I'm not doing a commercial here for Amazon. I just thought it was the first time I ordered supplies from Amazon, and I will never go to a brick and mortar again because that price gouging was outrageous. I know they're trying to survive. They're trying to compete with e-shopping, but damn. I mean, I don't like being bent over. You know what I'm saying? So anyway. Also, I found a deal on Amazon for individual shipping cartons of comic books. They look like this before they're folded. Gemini was the brand my friend Jeff Logan, I've known since the 80s, recommended. I have a lot of extra comics that I'm selling on eBay. The Nostalgic PodBlast eBay shop, if you will. It's not a shop. I haven't set up a store yet. I call it that, but I'm just a seller on eBay. And so, I needed some of these. So here's what's really cool. This may not interest you, but with my Amex points, I got 50 of these. I'm sorry, 25 of them for free. For free. Using my points with the free shipping. Didn't cost me a dime. And I pass that savings on to the bidders and the buyers because I set my prices low. The opening bids. They're fair. But I digress. So that's my tip that will help you save money. Any of the comic collectors out there, just use Amazon. And it's I guess it's common sense. And you're probably like, do you tell me something I don't know, dummy? I didn't know. Maybe I am stupid. But I'm always going to Amazon for my supplies from here on out. Are you out there, Danny? Kraken Slayer Comics? You probably do that too. But yeah, don't rely on a shop for your supplies. But do support them buying the new books or buying the classic books. Certainly support a brick and mortar. I'm all about that. But I don't like being bent over, though. I know that's a common sense tip. But, it's almost 50% savings, for goodness sakes. The only thing is about this Gemini, not to knock them, as soon as I ordered these, and they didn't cost me a thing, as I said, 25, I found a competitor, 50 of them for the same price. 50. You get twice as many, so I'm going to use that company next time I need more. But I'm not a big seller. I'm not a dealer. I don't intend on selling many more comics, just some overflow I have. Same with my films. Al Hardy, 16mm films. I'm sure only maybe 2% of listeners out there even collect 16mm film or care or know about what it is. It's reel-to-reel, the way TV stations used to show television shows pre-video. They would show films. And that's primarily what I collected were television shows and shorts like Three Stooges, cartoons, feature films. And so I have a lot of extra stuff. That's good stuff. It's not junk. Believe me, I'm not selling stuff that's not... I just have so much stuff that's good. So anyway, I just had to plug my little eBay venture for some side cash in this terrible economy of inflation that I hope gets rectified soon, this economy. The only problem that I have with Amazon are the drivers. I appreciate the wholesale prices. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's total savings on these supplies. Amazon deals directly with the manufacturer at wholesale prices. But the only problem is that you may get run over by a renegade Amazon driver in the process. That's one of their flaws. Many of their drivers cannot drive. That's my little mini rant. So recently, comic book collectors, I've talked about the history of Ant-Man and the history of the Silver Surfer, the history of the 1968 Marvel Comics year of the big premiere issue, air quotes, complete with visual aids from my collection for the viewer, while I play what I think and hope is exciting music for the listener. And I'm teasing, not going to do this tonight with this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast, but the next comic topic I have and theme, this will help you, is I'm going to talk about key comic books, which are key comic books that are pretty much unknown and are not worth much yet that you can get for steal. Oh, I had some in the background. Yeah, I'm gonna hold some up for the camera. I'll just tell you about one of them. Where the hell did I do? What the hell did I do with those books? Oh, they're right behind me. One of them is an Incredible Hulk issue to introduce these dudes. This will come into play once the Fantastic Four show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'll just show it to you. I won't go into too much detail if you don't give a flip about comic books, but it's the UFOs. These were like the anti-Fantastic Four. This book is not worth anything, and I don't know why. This is their first appearance. And it's just like the Fantastic Four. They have similar powers, not entirely. It's the anti-Fantastic Four. But the crazy thing is, when I collected comics, they never fought the Fantastic Four. They fought the Incredible Hulk. I'm like, what a no-brainer. Why didn't they match them up? Why didn't one of the writers and artists pair these guys up against the Fantastic Four? When I quit collecting, they never published anything where they battled. And I thought that would have been a cool story. But this book, I see having great potential. I think some clever new writer out there, screenwriter, is going to use these characters once the FF show up. I'm not saying it'll be right away. It'll probably be Dr. Doom or some other main villain of the FF, traditional main villain, but they've got to have like a Superman 2 type battle movie. I think that'd be cool as hell. So that's them. That's the UFOs. U-FOES, like UFOs. And it's just people that go up in a space flight to get eradicated by cosmic rays, and they get powers, and they're all bad dudes. Really cool. All right, I'll go into more detail in the comic book themed PodBlast. Let's move on. So next time I talk about comics, and I'm going to show you key comic books that are basically unknown for whatever reason, but they are actually keys, meaning a first appearance of a character. This coffee's really getting me wound up. I'm not on drugs. I'm really not. All right, it's time for our old-fashioned phrase of the week. This is a phrase that was used back in the day that today is passé. This was used specifically in advertising. It's such a BS marketing gimmick. Ready? Here it is. Back by popular demand. What the hell is that? I remember in newspaper ads for movies, you'd see the phrase, back by popular demand. I don't believe that for a second. I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will call me out if I am. But I think that was just a marketing ploy. I mean, this is before the internet. So what, people wrote letters? Would you please put Mad Max back in the theaters again? I mean, what the hell does that mean? Back by popular demand. And then another one, held over by popular demand. That one's a little more plausible because that could be based on actual performance. That's a performance-based expression. Like if a movie's selling tickets, I remember the last movie I remember that would be number one for weeks and months was Titanic. I call it Titanic because of that one scene. Titanic. And Superman the movie, when I was a little kid, I remember that was number one for months. I think for like a year or something. I mean, almost a year. I mean, and that was held over by popular demand. I can buy that, but this back by popular demand, that's a passé, old-fashioned, nostalgic phrase of the week that has come and gone. I don't, do you see that much anymore? Am I off base? Am I out of reality here? I think it's a bunch of BS. I think it's a marketing BS tactic of the newspaper days, pre-internet. I'm going to play a little music. I've played this before. I love this song from the Tubes. She's a Beauty. I'd like to play this to take a break and show something for the viewer from my collection. I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is a live performance, but I just need to take a break here, rest the vocal cords, and we're going to start winding down the show.
Because you will not believe
The Tubes, ladies and gentlemen. I love that song. So let's see what else we got here for you. Stephen Russo. Hey, I see he commented. I've got to read that comment as we're live here. I'm going to skip. We've talked about some notable people that passed away, so I'll forgo that. I need to start winding down the show here. But I just showed on camera the Bewitched 2005 to 2009 Sony DVD releases. And again, season 1 through 5 only had the season 1 opening theme, which kind of sucked. But other than that, they did a fantastic job. Do have some quick music history to go over real quick. Let's see. For April 15th, 16th, 17th, let me see what I got here for you. April 15th, 1967. The Nancy and Frank Sinatra duet Something Stupid hit number 1 on the U.S. singles chart. It was the first father and daughter act to hit number 1 on the charts. 1982, Billy Joel was seriously hurt in a motorcycle accident on Long Island, New York. He went to the hospital and stayed for over a month undergoing therapy on his injured hand. I don't remember that. Wow. 1996 in San Francisco, California, Jerry Garcia's remaining ashes were scattered near the Golden Gate Bridge. A small portion of his ashes had been scattered in the river in India on April 4th. Wow, this lady's big on television. Kelly Clarkson's debut album, Thankful, was released back on April 15th, 2003, shortly after she won the first American Idol competition. This is a joke. The Who began its 50th anniversary tour on April 15th, 2015. How many times have they had a tour? It was their last tour. I saw one in 89 at Lakewood in Atlanta, the old Lakewood Amphitheater, and they said that was their last tour. BS. Okay, and that's all. Let me just quickly go over some more music history notes that I made. For April 16th, 1954, April 16th, Roy Orbison attended an Elvis Presley show in Dallas, Texas. Pretty cool. In 1964, on April 16th, the Rolling Stones' debut album, titled The Rolling Stones, was released in the United Kingdom. More Stones news. In 1971, on April 16th, the Rolling Stones released Brown Sugar in the United Kingdom. It was the first record on their own label, Rolling Stones Records. April 16th, 1972, the Electric Light Orchestra, otherwise known as ELO, played their first live show in England. Now, I don't remember this at all. 1973, Paul McCartney starred in his first TV special, titled James Paul McCartney, on April 16th, 1973. Interesting. Someone out there, was that in England or the United States? Because I don't remember that. I was like 2 years old at the time, but that's interesting. Now, let's go to April 17th music news. Anything good here? What did I write down? This is kind of funky. April 17th, 1964. The FBI lab reported that it could not determine the lyrics to Louie Louie. Louie Louie. Oh, yeah. Oh, they couldn't determine the lyrics. Okay. Don't they have bigger fish to fry and more important things to worry about? Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap on music history then. And let me just quickly do something. Hang on, Stephen. I talked about Bewitched. I tried to stay on topic there with classic. Most of my topics today were classic television in that era. Let me see something here real quick. Now, I talked about this last time. I still think it's worth repeating. I won't read the whole article. But can you believe that for the first time since 1987, vinyl has sold better than compact discs? That just blows my mind. Vinyl record sales outperformed compact discs in the United States of America for the first time since 1987. Now, of course, how many people are still buying music? I know that's going to be a low overall number because most people are using digital means to get their music, and they're making their own playlists and putting them on flash drives and stick drives. You know, I get it. But still, there are people out there buying that want to own their own music, and I think that's pretty cool that vinyl's made such a comeback. Hell, even VHS tapes are coming back. Even though it's inferior visual and audio quality, there's grading companies out there grading videotapes. I got a ton of videotapes. I hope they gain value. You know, it's not a lot of them I threw away. Now I'm starting to regret. I'm like, damn, why'd I throw them away? Man. Okay, let me just see what else I had for you here. The TV cliche of the week. This is one of our our regular features. Here's this edition's TV cliche of the week. Past ones were temporary blindness, where a main character or even a supporting character would go blind and it would be cured, the blindness, within the course of 1 hour. Amnesia is another one. The thump on the head happened in I Dream of Jeannie in the last black and white episode, where Major Anthony Nelson, he'd already been promoted from Captain Nelson at that point in the show in season 1. He got hit in the head and he forgot who Jeannie was. It's just such a hokey plot device. Well, here's the new TV cliche of the week. The next door neighbor who moves in for 1 week, then is gone the next week, never to be heard of again. And that was obviously to bring in a guest star, but it was just such sloppy, shoddy writing, right? They didn't even explain away, in most cases, where this person went. They could have written a storyline where, I won't go, you get the point. I mean, it could have easily been explained away, but a lot of times in the old days of classic television, it never was explained. New feature, compliment of the week. Real brief. MeTV, I want to say, is killing it with their new season of Collector's Call, Sunday nights at 6:30 on MeTV. Check your local listings, hosted by Lisa Welchel from The Facts of Life. I love the collections that they show. Really interesting stuff. Even though they grade on the high scale, that's the only, I guess, criticism, to play devil's advocate about that program. They always assume it's going to sell for the high end, which isn't always the case when they tally up what the collection's worth. Let's see, what else did I have for you? Oh, yes, it's time for my fake rant of the week. Here it is. This pertains to classic television. CBS Paramount owns many classic television shows, from My Three Sons to Love American Style to the Quinn Martin aforementioned classic TV dramas, The Fugitive and The Invaders. And for a while, around 2007 to 2013, CBS Paramount was killing it in a good way with their home video releases on DVD and the like. However, these days, they're asleep at the wheel when it comes to streaming. Unless they are launching like a new uncut classic TV streaming service that they're planning, I do not understand why these shows I mentioned and many other classics they own are not streaming on Paramount Plus. There's plenty of Star Trek and classic Star Trek on Paramount Plus, but not much in the way of the other classic shows that CBS Paramount owns that are sitcoms and dramas, not just sci-fi stuff, which are all beloved by millions of people. I think they would boost their subscriptions if they added that content. And by the way, I noticed CBS Paramount had the extended version of the pilot of The Invaders taken down from YouTube recently. I didn't post it. I don't post that stuff anymore. Copyrighted stuff like that. I don't mess with that. But someone did, and it got pulled, and I'm like, okay, it must be streaming. And I looked everywhere. I tried Tubi. I tried CBS Paramount first that I subscribed to. It's not there. So maybe they're planning something I'm unaware of. So to give, benefit of the doubt, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I don't know why they're not putting My Three Sons and shows like that on Paramount Plus. Sony, I don't know. I'm rambling now. You get the point. There's too much. There's plenty of Star Trek. I shouldn't say too much because I'm a Trekker. And by the way, I meant to mention, you probably heard about this, but the new season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the new Trek hit streaming show that I love, along with Picard, which has been killing it lately, they announced that the second season will begin streaming on Thursday, June 15th, 2023 on Paramount Plus. So that's good. I thought they did a fantastic job. And a lot of people are kind of ticked about the casting of the new Captain Kirk by the Vampire Diaries actor who played Stefan. God, I'm having a brain toot. And I've met him. I worked with him. I worked as a featured background on that show for years. I can't remember his name. Oh, Paul. I gotta look it up. I can't believe I'm having a brain fart on his name. But he's the new Captain Kirk, and I like him, but yeah, he needs to bulk up. Hopefully he did work out a little bit in between seasons. He was introduced towards the end of season 1 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I talked about each episode on the Nostalgic PodBlast, and I'll continue to review each week's episode once those start dropping. Let me look this up. Paul Wesley. That's it. Paul Wesley. I think he was born overseas. He's an interesting dude. Let's see. Paul Wesley is the new Captain Kirk. He's 40 years old, about to turn 41, born July 23rd, 1982. Oh, in New Jersey. Okay, he was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I thought he was like Croatian or something. Or his family is from Europe. Polish. He speaks Polish. Yeah, his parents are Polish. Anyway, I digress. Who cares? Let's get back to nostalgia and classic TV talk. Let's see, where was I at? So I'm happy that Star Trek Strange New Worlds is returning to Paramount Plus this summer. My other fake rant of the week, this really ticks me off, and I'm sure, and this affects you, of course, more importantly, or I hate it when robots, or bots, if you will, tell you that you violated a term or condition when you really didn't. This is happening far too often on Instagram, Facebook. Those are the worst offenders, where it says you're misusing, doing nothing wrong. You're just doing, I hardly ever post on Twitter or Instagram. Don't have the issue on some of the social media platforms, but I have lately on Instagram. And so I just don't use it as much anymore. It just ticks me off when a bot says, oh, we've limited they don't even tell you for how long, temporarily, your ability to use this service, like a hashtag, because you violated a terms and service or you're abusing it or whatever. And then you can, of course, object, and then nothing ever happens. It's Instagram. I swear, look, I'm on Facebook Live, so I don't want to piss off the Facebook gods. But since Facebook took over Instagram, you see what's happening, folks. It's just not good. Another item, let's move on. Those are my rants of the week in this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast. Jonathan Major's arrest, that's disappeared from the news. Now, that could be a money grab from the young lady that claimed abuse. Don't know. We got to let that play out. Jonathan Majors, of course, has been doing very well in the movies. In Creed 3, and, of course, in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, Quantumania, as Kang the Conqueror, as well as in the streaming show Loki, Season 1. And he's going to be in Season 2, which was teased at the end of that film. Ant-Man and the Wasp 3. That's kind of crazy, but, there's two sides to every story. But, man, that disappeared from the news, didn't it? Let's see. Item. This is fun. I got a clip of this, 30 seconds. Wheel of Fortune. I told you earlier I'm a big wheel watcher, but they had a week towards the end of March 2023. It was the best week in years, in my opinion, thanks to hysterical and inappropriate professional wrestlers. This is from Yahoo News writer Matthew Goldberg, March 24th, 2023. This is going back a ways. The hit, now this is a mistake he made in the first sentence. The hit ABC game show. Okay. He was referring to the hit ABC game show Wheel of Fortune. That's your first mistake, sir. It's syndicated. It's not on ABC stations. What he got confused with was sporadically, there's a primetime version of Wheel of Fortune, but it's Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. And since these are technically celebrities, these wrestlers, he got confused. Understandable mistake. It's just, again, where are the online editors? Where is the Yahoo News editor? Jeez Louise. I'll just read it word for word with his mistake intact. The hit ABC game show Wheel of Fortune announced that the March 27th through 31st will be known as WWE Week as part of WrestleMania Hollywood Week. That's WrestleMania Hollywood Week without the effects there and the reverb. Press release. The show will be hosting multiple superstars throughout the week for a Wheel of Fortune tournament. Each day will have 4 different superstars alongside WWE superfans in hopes of winning the ultimate WrestleMania VIP experience. Superstars to be featured are Drew McIntyre, Bianca Belair, The New Day, Xavier Woods, The Big E, Kofi Kingston, Austin Theory, The Miz, Bayley, Liv Morgan, she was sexy, Sonya Deville, Natalya, and Carmella. End of article. Press release. I'm going to play the 30-second promo. It was a lot of fun. They did so many inappropriate. Some of these guys were just saying all sorts of crazy stuff that made me laugh. It just was just so refreshing to hear off-the-cuff stuff. Let me play this promo here.
This week, we'll tag teams WWE superstars with super fans. In this epic tournament, the top 3 teams advance to Friday's head-to-head championship match. Here tonight, Carmella, Xavier Woods, and Drew McIntyre. It all starts now.
By the way, when you're playing the Wheel of Fortune slot machine in Vegas or on a cruise ship or wherever, and you hear that Wheel of Fortune, you're in for the time of your life. You're in for the big spin at the top of that slot machine, and you're going to win some money because it takes so many plays to get to that big spin. I think that's the best slot machine ever, the Wheel of Fortune slot machine, next to the Linda Carter Wonder Woman slots. Okay, that was a very poorly phrased sentence by me, your host, Chance Bartels, but you catch part. There is a Wonder Woman slot machine. There's 2 of them. One, and both are based on the Linda Carter classic television show from 1975 to 1979. One of them's during the World War II era, and one is the quote-unquote modern era, which was the 1970s with funky music, and they show clips from the classic show. Man, that is a fun slot machine. When I was in Vegas, and then where else? In Atlantis, down in the Bahamas, hit that casino, and I won on those. Those are kind of hot machines, but I love Wheel of Fortune the best. Those are the funnest slot machines to play, and I hope we get legalized official gambling here in the state of Georgia so that I can play Wheel of Fortune slots. I mean, hell, we've got the Georgia Lottery. We have had it since 1993 when our former governor Zell Miller made it happen. So why not just have a casino? What the hell, right? Ooh. Item, and we're going to start to conclude the show. I said that about an hour ago. Got to give a shout out to our friends at Remind Magazine. Here, as we're live, is the latest edition. It's about variety shows. I loved variety shows. Did you love classic variety shows? A lot of you are going to curse me for saying this, but actually I like the Donnie Marie variety show. I had a crush on Marie when I was a little kid, and she's made some statements lately that are kind of, off-putting. But that's her life, whatever. But I saw their Vegas show, her and her brothers, back in November 2017, and it was phenomenal. Oh, man. And it lasted for years and years. For good reason. They are good performers. They're very talented. You might be into Metallica and more harder music, and I like all kinds of music. But their show was just incredible. The dancing, they had all sorts of dancers, as you would expect in a Vegas show. But let's get back to Remind real quick. I want to give everyone a tip on a special deal. If you're here watching the Nostalgic PodBlast, chances are you like nostalgia. It's not about me. It's about our collected memories and experiences collectively. Well, did you know there's a monthly magazine called Remind Magazine, which is loaded with interesting articles, games, full-color photos, interviews with your favorite stars, personalities, and lots more. Remind Magazine offers fresh takes on popular entertainment from days gone by. Each issue has dozens of brain-teasing puzzles, trivia quizzes, classic comics, and monthly themed features from the 1950s through the 1990s. The best part is it comes to you each and every month in the mail, like the good old days when you'd wait for that Sports Illustrated or Boys Life or Dynamite magazine, except these magazines are written on an adult level, while touching your inner child gently, tapping that inner child on the shoulder. And now this is the best part. You can get this for $1 an issue in the newsstands at Barnes & Noble. It's $5 an issue. It's only $12 for the entire year right now. Limited time offer, introductory offer by Remind Magazine. Here's how you order. To order, just go to remindmagazine.com, or you can order over the phone, old school, with a friendly order specialist. The phone number, if you choose to call and talk to a human being, and you will get a human being easily, the number is 855-773-6463. 855-773-6463, or simply go to remindmagazine.com. And please mention the Nostalgic PodBlast when you order. All right, back to this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast. Oh, I mentioned this last time, and I mentioned earlier, but in case you missed it, because I talk about this show all the time, and I have them all on reel-to-reel film, and the stars of the show have been on the PodBlast, Heather Thomas, Doug Barr. Fall Guy Seasons 1 and 2 are on Amazon Prime for free for subscribers. They were once like $1.99 or $3.99 per episode. Now they're free. All right, that's all I got to say about that. But I think that's kind of cool. My buddy Hunter has been watching them. Like I said earlier, he texted me when he saw the one with Richard Burton from season 2, titled "Reluctant Traveling Companion," and that has music replacement though. By the way, when the opening title where it says "Reluctant Traveling Companion" rolls, they've replaced the music. It was playing Elton John's "Philadelphia Freedom" because it takes place in Philadelphia in the beginning of that episode, and that's been knocked out back in 2007 by 20th Century Fox due to music royalty issues, which sucks. But on my film reel, it's in there. And I have VHS tapes I taped off of WATL here in Atlanta, Channel 36 back in the 1990s. I recorded most of the episodes, but they were missing like a minute and a half per episode. They were 46 and a half minutes long instead of 48 minutes. Oh, shoot. I got one other quick clip, 30-second clip, I believe, or 45 seconds. You know how I always mentioned what Disney now owns? It's shocking how much Disney owns of our childhood. And it just occurred to me, I'm always realizing, my God, they own Planet of the Apes. They own, because they bought that 20th Century Fox library. Well, that includes this classic show. I'll give you a hint of what it is as I try to get the clip to play. Here's the hint. Jiggle TV. Look up Fred Silverman Jiggle TV, and we've talked about it before, but do your own homework. Disney now owns this.
Once upon a time, there were 3 little girls who went to the police academy. And they were each assigned very hazardous duties. But I took them away from all that, and now they work for me. My name is Charlie.
That's right. That's a Walt Disney property now. Charlie's Angels. And we'll talk more about Charlie's Angels and Jiggle TV when I host my History of Aaron Spelling TV shows extra large PodBlast Live as part of my TV Mogul series, like the one I did on Glenn A. Larson, etc., etc. And I also did an edition on Stephen Kennel Productions. Anyway, that's coming soon. So, man, we're almost out of time here with the show, and I thank you for listening at Fistful of Radio. If you're listening at fistfulofradio.com or Apple or TuneIn or Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you being out there, each and every one, because I know I'm a motor mouth and I'm not much to look at, but hopefully you dig my collectibles. What is it? Oh, yeah, we got to do our nostalgic food of the week that I promised, but before that, quick update.
This is Jeopardy!
Okay, this is probably going to tick off some people. I try not to be controversial or provocative in the Nostalgic PodBlast, but I always wind up doing that. I watch Jeopardy as well. I watch too much television, as well as Wheel. I'm a Wheel watcher, and both of those are Sony properties, Sony Television out of Japan. I love Sony products. I love their electronics. I've bought several Sony TVs over the years. But I'm going to make this statement, and it's based on actual facts and numbers. Why is it that men contestants, traditional men, remain as champion longer than women? And I posed this in a forum, and the debate was lively. And it wasn't even a debate. Women agreed. It's a fact. If you look at the top 3 earners, if you look at Ken Jennings, who's at the top, some women stated, and I thought it was an interesting theory, they think that women are more skittish when it comes to a big wager. They don't risk as much. And it just was an interesting debate in the Jeopardy Facebook group. Jeopardy fans. Look up Jeopardy fans, and I just think it's interesting. So, and Mayim Bialik supposedly will be back hosting this summer when she's on hiatus from her sitcom. I guess her sitcom survived the death of her co-star. That was terrible. When Leslie Jordan passed away driving his car off a cliff. Terrible, because he had a medical emergency. Man, what a great actor. And he did a Fall Guy in season 5. Have it on film. Have them all on film. He did a Fall Guy episode, little Leslie Jordan. I never really paid proper tribute to him on the show when he passed. Just so many people have passed away, so many iconic actors, new and old, and it just is really heartbreaking. And musicians, not just actors, artists, it just makes me sad. Al Jaffee, we talked about in this edition of the PodBlast. So, God, do we want to do this? I guess I got to do some birthdays. Just a few, just quick mentions. Hate to be so damn long-winded. And then we'll get to the nostalgic treat of the week. Let me get my music going here for birthdays. I already talked about Elizabeth Montgomery at the top of the show. Classic star of Bewitched. So let me just skim through here and talk about birthdays on April 16th. Talked about Roy Clark. His birthday was back on April 15th. Happy heavenly birthday to him and Elizabeth. They're both gone, of course. She's been gone since 95. Talked about earlier. Happy birthday to Selena. Charlie Chaplin. My gosh. He passed back on Christmas Day, 1977. He was born on April 16th, 1889. Chaplin, more like Craplin. That's an old Saturday Night Live joke by David Spade when he did the Hollywood Minute in the early 90s. That was a funny little bit he did. But I love Charlie Chaplin. He's talking about the movie. Chaplin, more like Craplin. All right, you heard it. So happy heavenly birthday to Charlie Chaplin. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, born April 16th, 1947, New York, New York. He just had a record busted by LeBron James. Should I mention this? My name's Chance Bartell. Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper. Happy birthday to him. He stole my thunder. He was born on April 16th, 1993 in Chicago, Illinois. Martin Lawrence, born in 1965 in Frankfurt, Germany. Met him on set. Big Mama's House 3. Nice guy. I love his comedy, Martin Lawrence. You got that dough on your lip. Remember he got in trouble in Saturday Night Live back in 93? Anyway, it got censored on the West Coast. Did a yeast infection joke or something. Not to be crude. Just telling you that's what he did. But Martin Lawrence, man, I love those movies. The Big Mama's House movies. Dusty Springfield. She passed March 2nd, 99, but she was born on April 16th, 1939 in London, England. Peter Billingsley. Remember him? Messy Marvin. That's what I remember him from first, before A Christmas Story. He was Messy Marvin in the Hershey's chocolate syrup commercials. He was born April 16th, 1971 in New York, New York. And, of course, they recently released the sequel to A Christmas Story. Happy birthday, buddy. Ellen Barkin, 1954. April 16th, 1954, born in Bronx, New York. Happy birthday to you. Jerry Rafferty, I love his music. He's been gone since January 4th, 2011, but he was born April 16th, 1947. Right down the line. I love so many of his songs. The great Henry Mancini, who scored the theme to the Pink Panther, among many, many other compositions. He passed back on June 14th, 1994. So happy heavenly birthday to you, sir. Your music is eternal. But he was born April 16th, 1924 in Little Italy, Ohio. I'm just scanning here. Okay, that's all I'm going to mention on that. And now we're going to April 17th. Happy birthday to Jennifer Garner. I met her on set. A quick story about Jennifer Garner. I did background, which is like extra work, on a Disney movie titled The Odd Life of Timothy Green some years ago here in Atlanta, 2011. And out of her own money, she paid for everyone, cast, crew, background, everybody, to have two things. One, a cappuccino. So she hired a local cappuccino person in Covington, Georgia, to show up on the set and serve everyone cappuccinos to keep us awake because it was a long, long day of shooting. Two, when we were in another location, on location, outdoors, she paid this company, King of Pops, who make their own popsicles. These were like lawyers that lost their jobs back in 2008, and they bought a creamery, or they had a creamery, and they started making popsicles. And they don't want to be in grocery stores, at least the last interview I read from the owners. They just want to be mom and pop, and a dude will show up in a cart at like an arts festival here in the Atlanta metropolitan area or the Marietta Square, selling these delicious popsicles. And they have one that's called chocolate sea salt. That's my favorite. Anyway, she paid them to show up on set and give everyone popsicles unlimited. So happy birthday to Jennifer Garner. She was born on April 16th, 1972 in Houston, Texas. I thought she was born in West Virginia. So I got to check my source here as we're live. Listen to the music. Well, because I thought she was from West Virginia. Of course, we remember her as comic book people from Elektra. She was in the original Daredevil movies, and Elias before that. Oh, hell. I pulled up the wrong thing. I never want to give out inaccurate information, and if I do, I will do a correction corner and correct it. No, Houston, Texas. I don't know why I was thinking West Virginia. Maybe she went to college there or something. All right, let's move on. I'm stuck on stupid. No need to be stuck on stupid. Just move on here. So happy birthday, Jennifer Garner. Talk about wrestling. How about Roddy Piper? I love They Live. John Carpenter's They Live from 1988. He passed back on July 31st, 2015, but he was born in Canada on April 17th, 1954. Happy heavenly birthday to Roddy Piper. That's a great movie, man. Underrated. A little on the low budget side, but I think it holds up, and I still love it a lot. They Live. I want to give some shout outs real quick as I'm trying to go through my birthday list as we're live. I didn't have time to write all this down, so I'm doing this on the fly. Shout out to Golden Rage of TV, Pat McCormick. Some podcast, Geek to Me Radio, which is a radio show and a podcast out of St. Louis, Missouri. James Install hosts that. I appreciate his mutual support. Those guys in Cartersville, Georgia. BK on the Air, Barry King and Alan Sanders. Alan Sanders you can hear sometimes on WSB Radio in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I appreciate everyone past and present that helps me along. So shout out to their show. It airs Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon on WBHF. And it's on YouTube as well. Shout out to, oh man, the RetroZest show. Or the RetroZest podcast. RetroZest.com. I think you'd enjoy that. That guy has a strong footprint on social media. Curtis, he's my buddy. I don't want to leave anyone out. Let me just quickly go to my list as I stall here. Damn, I don't want to leave anybody out. Oh man, this guy's on SB. I'm trying to remember the name of his show. I'll look it up, folks. I'm not good tonight. So let's move on to April 18th birthdays real quick. Conan O'Brien, born in Massachusetts on April 18th, 1963. Happy birthday to you and Team Coco. Not going to mention no Kardashians. Rick Moranis, happy heavenly birthday to you. No, he's dead. He's deceased. He was born in 1953 in Toronto, Canada. I loved his acting and comedy on SCTV, Jerry Todd. And of course, you know, he did the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movies. You know what? I'm getting confused with Peter Scolari, who did the TV version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Oh my God. Rick Moranis, he's still around. He's just a recluse now. God. It was Peter Scolari, who you may remember from Bosom Buddies. Rick Moranis is alive and well. Thank gosh. Yeah, man. He is going to be 70 years old. He turned 70 on April 18th. Happy birthday. Golly, forgive me for that. I'm glad I caught that while I'm still on the air. I got to check these comments, too, from Steven Russo. I haven't seen that yet. I'm looking at my notes. Other April 18th birthdays. Haley Mills. Born in the United Kingdom on April 18th, 1946. Love her. James Woods was born April 18th, 1947 in Utah. Happy birthday to you. Let's see. Who else? Eric Roberts. Now, see, I thought, now he was raised, he and his sister Julia Roberts, in Smyrna, Georgia, which is where I'm located. The Nostalgic PodBlast home base is in Smyrna, Georgia, or Vinings, if you will. And that's where he and his sister were raised. But he was born in Biloxi, Mississippi, on April 18th, 1956. I remember him in a movie called The Gypsy in the 1970s. I think it was released in 1978. As was the case with a lot of siblings, he was the star first, and then his sister followed in his footsteps. And she sort of, outshone him over the years. But let's see. Oh, Jane Leaves. Loved her in Frasier. Happy birthday to you, ma'am. Born in Essex in the United Kingdom on April 18th, 1961. She's a funny, beautiful lady. Happy heavenly birthday to Barbara Hale from the original Perry Mason show. She passed away back on January 26th, 2017. She was born on April 18th, 1922. Happy heavenly birthday to you. I like her, this lady, Melissa Hart. She's known as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, tying into our Bewitched, supernatural comedy. It was sort of a nod to Bewitched. She was born in 1976, April 18th, 1976, in Smithtown, New York. Happy birthday to Melissa Joan Hart, or Melissa Hart. And she did a funny show. Didn't she do Step by Step with Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers? Or I might be thinking of something else. But she worked well with Joey Lawrence. They're a good comedy team. Back on ABC Family. Let's see here. Eric McCormack, happy birthday to you. Oh, here's a classic TV star who's no longer with us, James Drury. He was one of the star of The Virginian, which was the first color 90-minute Western. Started back in 1961. I got to look that up. Going by memory here. He did a Fall Guy also, with a lot of Western stars like Pat Buttram. Remember him, Mr. Haney from Green Acres, but he did Westerns also, and his co-star Doug McClure, and what's that episode called? Not King of the Cowboys, that was the sequel, but Roy Rogers is in it. Happy Trails, that's right, and that's on. Look that up. That's on Amazon Prime. Fall Guy Season 2. Happy Trails. That's a good episode. James Drury's in it, and a lot of other Western stars. But I love The Virginian. Let me see when that started. That was beautiful color, dramatic show on NBC. Let me give you the accurate start date. Oh, I should grab my book. I have my book here, my TV Bible. I should do that before I turn to the internet. I always cross-reference my books and internet notes to make sure I'm giving you the right information, because I want this to be educational. Here we go, The Virginian. I got a little source here. I'm not going to say this one yet. It's one of my best little sources I found. And I got to keep this one close to the vest. Let's see if I can find that here. James Drury. 1962. That's the first season, the same season that the Beverly Hillbillies debuted. The Virginian began on NBC on September 19th, 1962, with an episode titled The Executioners. And I loved that show, The Virginian. And it wrapped with new episodes on March 24th, 1971. That's a nice, healthy, long run of 9 seasons. And it was retitled The Men from Shiloh. Nice long run. Let's see if I got anybody else here for you now. We're born on April 18th that we care about. Happy birthday to Melody Thomas Scott. She's still on The Young and the Restless. She's done a lot of television. Born in 1956 on April 18th in Los Angeles, California. Happy birthday to you. And she did Body Language. Talked about that game show earlier in the PodBlast. She was a celebrity player on Body Language a few times. All right, well, that's a wrap on birthdays. Now our nostalgic food of the week, if I could find my notes. I'm all over the place. I may redo this entire show based on that phone call I got earlier, because I know that person's got... Okay, nostalgic treat of the week. I always talk about some nasty throwback foods from the 70s and 80s, and some good ones, primarily good ones. I want this to be a positive show. I have one that's a little bit of both. At the time, I loved it. I'm going to play a commercial of this food. This is from the 80s. This is a 1984 television commercial for this product. Here you go.
Why did it take you so long to try Steak-'em all-beef sandwich steaks?
I thought it was expensive. It's under 50 cents per portion.
I didn't realize it's pure beef. Pure beef.
I did not know if it tasted good enough for me. It tastes good enough for me.
I didn't think this one box of Steak-'em sandwich steaks would give me so many big hot sandwiches.
If you're not trying Steak-'em now, what's keeping you? Steak-'em. You've got to try it.
Yeah, Steak-'em. Remember those? They may still be around for all I know, but you can find those on Amazon as well. You can find anything on Amazon. But Steak-'ems was a product that was invented back in 1968 by food technologist Eugene Gagliardi. That's spelled Gagliardi, who was also credited with inventing popcorn chicken. I had some of that today for lunch. Popcorn chicken, part of my lunch, with a nutritious vegetable. Gagliardi, who at the time worked at his family's meat distributing company called Gagliardi Brothers in West Philadelphia, created the meat as a softer alternative to steak sandwiches of the time. But I loved those. You find them in your grocer's freezer, as memory serves. And I'd always ask Mom to pick up some Steak-'ems. And my friends, when I'd spend the night at a friend's house, we'd whip up some Steak-'ems. Yeah, we would. Okay, I think it's time to say goodnight. I'm going to do a contest to give away every episode ever made of Lost in Space on DVD for those that can still play DVDs. I do streaming. I've kept up with the times, but I love, as you can see behind me, those are all the Bewitched DVDs, all 254 episodes. The streaming services can be a shell game. I've said it many, many times, because what streams today on a service may not stream there tomorrow. Case in point, Friends and The Office, which was once on Netflix, and then it jumped ship to Peacock when NBC started their own new streaming service. That's why I think CBS Paramount may have something in the works for classic television, a separate streaming service. If not, if they're listening to me now, they're probably going to take that idea and run with it. Another thing I want to recommend, this is one of my books I use as a source on camera. It's called Cult TV. It's from many, many years ago, and I just love it. It's just loaded with interesting factoids about television that you can't find on the internet, and I highly recommend it if you can find a copy. Cult TV by John Javna. Another book I recommend pertaining to TV, the Bewitched book, talked about earlier, written by Herbie J. Pilato. It's been out since 1992. It's been updated. There's been updated editions, and it's a really, really, really interesting read if you care about Bewitched. So, folks, guys, gals, and the audience of the Nostalgic PodBlast, I wish you a great, great week, and we'll see you next time right here on the Nostalgic PodBlast. hold it. I just saw some comments before I sign off. Howell Golson said, I collected over 100 Mad magazines. I bought from the place. Okay. Bought from what place? Let me see. I've got to acknowledge Steve Russo, Stephen M. Russo. He has a great Facebook group about classic television. He wrote, as I'm live, Charlie's Angels is not 20th Disney. Yes, I know, but no. It's a 20th Century Fox. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was 20th Century Fox. I have film prints of it that have the 20th Century Fox logo on it. But let me read what he said. Charlie's Angels is not a 20th Century Fox / Disney product. It was one of Aaron Spelling, Leonard Goldberg co-productions over at Columbia Pictures Television, Sony. That's true. But hang on a second now. Let me look it up while we're live. Oh, here it is. Howell Golson, do you remember the paper chase on Beaufort Highway? Yes, I do, right here in Georgia. This is local talk here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Yes, and I bought comics there, and that's where he's saying he collected over 100 Mad magazines from. But let me just, I can't tear myself away from this edition of the Nostalgic PodBlast. I've got to look that up. Dang. It is Fox. My reels say Fox, and there's Fox property on there. Hang on a second. Charlie's. He's probably right. This guy's very smart. He's smarter than I am. Charlie's Angels, 20th Century Fox. Let me just try that. God dang it. I looked somewhere wrong. Okay. Gonna sign off for real in just a second. Is Charlie's Angels? Well, why the hell would my film say 20th Century Fox right there on the leader? I guess the leader could be wrong. I mean, from a studio. God dang it. Okay. Let's see. The sets were built on the 20th Century Fox lot in Century City, California. Maybe the prints came from the studio. It was probably a studio print. This would explain it. Let me just check this source real quick. You know what? Yeah, because I remember the Columbia logo at the end, but I thought it might. Okay, right here. Where'd they shoot Charlie's Angels? Well, most of the interior locations seen throughout the series were sets built on the 20th Century Fox lot, just like Love Boat is owned by Paramount these days, and that runs on CBS Paramount, that classic show. But it was shot on the Fox lot as well in Century City, California. Okay, well, you are right, sir. So scratch that from the record. Let me see. Who owns Charlie's Angels? Shout out to Elizabeth Banks. I did not see her movies, but I do like her hosting Press Your Luck, the new version. I like that they've kept it like the classic game show, and it's coming back this summer on ABC. Unlike Card Sharks, they used to run back to back when they first debuted. I think this will be the 4th or 5th season. I think the 5th season of Press Your Luck, and that's a lot of fun. A lot of mindless fun. Those whammies. Give me your money. Give me your money. Let me see here. Google. What are you talking about, Google? Let me look up who owns Charlie's Angels. I think you're right, sir. I'm just a little retentive. I won't say what goes before retentive. Angels TV show. This guy's really smart. I already said that. Who owns, God bless America, TV show. Man, I got something. Sony Pictures Entertainment. Yep. Okay. See, correction corner. He's absolutely right. So Charlie's Angels is owned by Sony Pictures Entertainment, our friends at Sony, who also, of course, own Spider-Man, the character of Spider-Man, and Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. There you go. So there you have it. Now let me get back to where I was at, and I'll say goodnight. I went 3 hours and 25 minutes, just about. That's a good long show. It's a good time to sign off. So again, have a great, great week. Hope you have a wonderful time this spring and this summer. This is Chance Bartels of the Nostalgic PodBlast signing off. For real.